the Spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power! Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Since the opening has already been established, protocol is in place, I'm going to get right into it because I know we don't have a whole lot of time. Again, welcome to the Temple of Mercy Association. This is a house dedicated to the observance of God. I am the co-founder of this great movement. My name is Minister Omari Jahi Aten, and along with our founder, Minister Rahim Aten, and our First Lady, Sister Makita Aisha Aten, we have nurtured and grown this great movement to what it is today for the, like Minister Taharka said, for the past 30 some odd years. The title of my lecture today is Let Us Make Man Again. Man was already made once, but just like soap, I don't know where this is going, but just like soap, you know, today they have what they call new and improved. You know, but when I look at humanity, I don't know if that's an improved version. So I think that we have to understand what it is to make a man. And when I say man, please understand that I mean man and woman, because that's how God created us as one. And he called us both man. So the foundation of this, one of the foundations, I should say, that this movement is built on or built upon is based on a vision that our founder, Minister Rahim Aten, he received a vision from our Creator that instructed him to find peace within themselves and then to teach others to find that peace as well within themselves. Peace of mind, brothers and sisters, is something that you can't go in the store and purchase. Peace of mind is a feeling of being safe and protected. You know, a lot of people get security systems in their home. And one of the reasons they get this security system is because they want to have some peace of mind. They want to have some peace of mind that their home is secure to the point to whereas when they're asleep, they won't wake up to somebody standing over them. You know, they feel safe, and this is a physical peace, and of course mentally you feel at peace. But now, what is the opposite of peace of mind? And then we want to look at, is this something that we're actually experiencing and living right now today, the opposite of peace? Let's look at this. Check this out. The opposite of having peace of mind would be a feeling of being conflicted. We feeling conflicted today? We fighting good and evil today? The conflict going back and forth. 1 minute, I got an angel on my shoulder, and the next minute the devil is working. I ain't speaking outside now. I'm talking within. The internal angel, the internal devils that we are conflicted with, and then we have to deal with every day. But a lot of us don't even really pay attention to the fact that we are fighting a war and wonder why we call this a warship service. We are at war. But some people probably be like, man, people over there at Toma is crazy. We ain't at war. I beg to differ, brothers and sisters. We are at war. We are fighting within ourselves to be good when evil is so easy to be. You know, the opposite of peace is also being at war, being in distress, being agitated, being irritated. Are we experiencing this today, brothers and sisters? And if we are, then I can understand now why the Creator gave our leader, teacher, and guide a vision of finding peace within. That peace of mind that gives you that feeling of safety, that feeling of being protected. We can't even let our kids go outside and play because we don't feel at peace. We don't feel safe doing that. So how did we get this way, brothers and sisters? How did we get here? You know, the Creator gave me something, and we're going to talk on it a little bit later. It's called reverse engineering. It's a word that's been out forever. You know, white people use it all the time. Probably other ethnic groups, the Japanese, Chinese. You know, for some reason, we as Black people, we don't really. Well, I can't say we don't. We never heard of it, but we never had a reason to use it. Probably because we didn't know what it really was. But we're going to go into that in a little bit. But the main reason for us being like this is in the Holy Bible. Jesus spoke of it in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 4 and 5. And we quote the scripture all the time, but I wonder if we really understand what the real value of it. Verse 4 reads, "And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For verse 5, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many." Excuse me. Now, deception, brothers and sisters, deception is a very powerful thing that we are. I mean, my last lecture that I gave last month was what was the name of it? What we've learned to live with? We've learned to live with the wrong. You know, and deception is one of those wrongs we've learned to live with. We've learned to live with the fact that people lie to us. We've learned to live with the fact that people aren't always what they seem to be or present themselves to be to us. We've learned to live with that. We've accepted that, you know. But when God created humanity, and when he created us in his image and after his likeness, which Minister Harker was kind of alluding to earlier, you know, because if you really read in the Holy Bible, you know, in the book of Genesis, there seems to be two creations that took place. One was where God created man in his image and after his likeness and gave them dominion. And the other one, he said that he made man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils and he became a living soul. I'm scratching my bald head now because I was led to believe that there was only one creation. But that's not my lecture. I just wanted to bring that point out. You know, like that talk show host used to say, what is his name? Hey, man. Arsenio Hall used to say something that just make you say, You know, we're gonna drop that little nugget and we're gonna keep it moving. But look, truth is what God created us. He created us in truth and in righteousness. And in John, the book of John in the Holy Bible, chapter 8, verse 32, It said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Well, let's just hear that verse, and they said, it shall set you free. But it's actually make you free. Because, see, to set you free means somebody let you free. To make you free means you did the work and made it happen. You did it. You made yourself free. Make yourself free. And so, in this understanding of deception and falsehood, it's an act or statement that misleads. See, when you deceive somebody, you're misleading them. And the more I say this, the more I think I'd be hurting people's feelings. But I don't mean to. I don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm just speaking the truth about when you wow. Mm. Oh, the creative boy, he's something else, man. Ah, when when you decide that you want to improve your appearance in some way by putting a sock in your pants or padding a bra, it's deception. When I see a lot of sisters with these eyelashes, they don't like their hair, how God made their hair, so they wear wigs. Or we get extensions. Or I seen this movie, and I spoke of it last week. It's called I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. Whereas this brother, he took a sister home, and they were gonna do like most sinful folks do. They was finna get busy. And the sister went in the bedroom, and while she was taking her clothes off, she took her arm off, she took her butt off, she took one of her breasts off, and she had a false eye. Now, I'm sure this brother didn't think that's what he was getting when he brought her home. So my point is that when you mislead people, when you hide the truth or promote a belief or a concept or idea that is not true, it is often done for personal gain. You know, you say everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel beautiful, or the word they're using for it now is sexy. But beauty and sex, even though they're kind of making them interchangeable today, they have nothing to do with each other. Beauty, even we've been taught, or we're being taught, I should say, that beauty is an outward expression. You know, you have beautiful eyes, you have beautiful hair, you have beautiful skin, you have a beautiful shape. All these outward exterior things, when in all actuality, beauty is an inward thing. You have a beautiful spirit. You have a beautiful personality. You see what I'm saying? This is where beauty really lies. But because we live in a satanic world, and I proved that the last time I spoke. Y'all go back and look at the video. The wrong we've learned to live with. Look at that video. We've been duped into believing that wrong is right and right is wrong. And so it's okay to mislead and hide the truth from people. because everybody else is doing it. It's okay. But you have to understand, beloved, that God created us in truth. That means it's truth that drives us as spiritual human beings. Truth, not falsehood. So, this, the deception is also involved dealing with propaganda. You know, during the election year, this is like election year, there's a lot of propaganda going around. They were saying all this stuff about Pritzker. They were saying all this stuff about Lightfoot. They say stuff about everybody. They call it campaigning, but it's really mudslinging, and propaganda. And what is really propaganda? Propaganda is only information that people give out to give you an impression of a person that may or may not really be true. During the time of Hitler, he used to spread propaganda about the Jews. And he would say that if you let a Jew move into your neighborhood, that the grass would stop growing. Wow, does that sound familiar? Somebody said the same thing about Negroes. You let them Negroes move on your block, the grass don't stop growing. What else did they say? Well, Hitler said rats and roaches would follow them. And you have rats and roaches in your community. Did we hear that about Black people? Yeah. I wonder, the same people that were wrongly done by Hitler now is using Hitler's tactics on somebody else. Propaganda. Using this information, or misinformation, I should call it, to paint a picture of a people or a race of people. Now, the Creator just put this in my head, and I'm just going here with it. I have a belief that people that are victims of abuse, there's a large percentage of those abused victims that will in turn evolve into becoming a person that inflicts that same victimology on somebody else. Now, what am I really saying? I'll give you a perfect example. And for some reason, the world that we live in seems to understand it when it comes to other races other than us. R. Kelly was abused by his sister when he was young, molested, raped by his sister. As he grew up, those tendencies, then he began to become the thing that he hated. He didn't like the fact that his sister molested him. He became a molester. Is that a sickness? It sounds like one to me. But for some reason, the rulers of this world, the people that make the laws, the people that run this country, seem to understand it when it's a white person. He's ill, he needs help. He needs to go into a detox center if he's an alcoholic or a drug addict. He needs to go and have some counseling, some kind of therapy. If the things that he's operating with is from a psychological perspective. But when it's us, therapy is not even an issue. They didn't even think about therapy for R. Kelly. And it's And it's open knowledge. Everybody knew this. I hope everybody knew this because I didn't think it was a secret that he was molested as a child and never got any help. Now, how many people have become a predator and a pedophile simply because they were exposed to it as a child? And I'm saying that everybody that was molested becomes a pedophile. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it happens. And if it happens, brothers and sisters, then we have to understand that it's happening and we have to put something in place in order to correct the wrong that has been done. This is again why, remember I said earlier, keep this concept in your mind and really studying and researching reverse engineering. When reverse engineer something, you take a finished product, you don't know how it ended up like this. See, I'm gonna give you a better example. My favorite cake is a pineapple cream cheesecake, right? You ain't never had nothing like it in your life. I'm telling you. If you eat, I'm just like that. I tell you the best cake on the planet. Pineapple cream cheese, right? I have no idea how to make one. I don't even know how to make a cake. But if I wanted to make a cake, I would start with a finished product, right? And to reverse engineer, you would start with, okay, I know I need pineapples. I know I need cream cheese, right? See, I'm going in reverse in order to figure out how to make the finished product. What else do you need to make cake? Eggs, right? I think you need eggs. Flour. I just don't know how to make a cake. I have no idea. But I think it's eggs and flour and vanilla extract or something. Is that? Yes. You know. And so if I've figured out all these ingredients is needed in order to make the finished product, I have just reverse engineered this pineapple cream cheesecake. Now, the only thing I have to do now is figure out how much did the person that made this used in order to get it to taste like it's tasting. So that means I got to do some experimenting. I might make 10 of these things before I actually get the right balance of pineapples or the right balance of the cream cheese or the right balance of eggs. All that stuff has to be taken into consideration. So if I'm reverse engineering pain, if I'm reverse engineering fear, we've already started with the end product, which is a person that's damaged because of pain. So to reverse engineer it, I know I left off the paper, Evan. I'm sorry. I can't help it, but this is what came up. To reverse engineer fear, you have to then look at all the ingredients that made up the fear. Seeing people get shot, hearing gunshots, I mean, it's so many things that go into fear. Being abused, being beat up in school when you were young, having your lunch money taken. You know, being made to believe that at any point on your job you can get fired for any little mistake. You see what I'm saying? Say again. Seeing your parents abuse or seeing one parent abuse the other. You see what I'm saying? It creates a fear. Now, in order to figure out or to know, because see, now we're not trying to reproduce fear. We're trying to now get back to where we were before all these ingredients were applied to the cake. Because see, I can put some other things in the cake, in my pineapple cream cheesecake would be something else. You see what I'm saying? So I guess what I'm saying is, if I added all kind of other things to my pineapple cream cheesecake, walnuts, nutmeg, all kind of different stuff, I put, if I added all that stuff to it, and it messed up my pineapple cream cheesecake where it ain't pineapple cream cheese no more, then my reverse engineering would be to take the nutmeg out, but I got to know it's there. I have to get rid of the walnuts, but I have to know that it's there. I have to accept the fact that it's there. And then reverse engineering would be taking those things out so that now that once I do that, I'll be back to my original pineapple cream cheesecake. Let us make man again. See, we can make man again. All we have to do is take out the crap that Satan put in. This thing about sex, you know, I ask anybody, any Bible scholar, whoever, to show me in this book what God taught man and woman to have sex. I got $100. If it can show me, and I know people don't say, be fruitful and multiply. That's the crap everybody keeps saying. That means sex. That's what that means. Okay. Now we got a young man in the audience right now. How old is that young man? He's about 3, 4, something. Okay, he's 3. If I told that young man, be fruitful and multiply, is he gonna know how to have sex? So show me how being fruitful and multiplied turns into sex. It don't make sense, brothers and sisters. We have to think for a change. And if that's your only defense, and nowhere in here can you see where God taught man and woman to have sex, then how did we learn it? How did we learn to have sexual intercourse? In the beginning, they said we had on fig leaves, and no, we were naked. I'm sorry, we were naked. After this proverbial eating of the apple, all of a sudden we decided that we need to cover that stuff up. You know, if we look in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, I believe it's chapter 3. I'm gonna go through it real quick. It talks about a serpent that beguiled, oh, here it is again, deceived, tricked, those are some other words, Eve, tricked her. I'm going to read this for you. It says, in chapter 3, it says, and this is the first verse. It says, now the serpent was more subtle, and we know what subtle is, slick. He was, we call it Slick Willie. I ain't talking about you, Will. He was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, let me stop right there real quick. Now, we all know that serpents don't talk, right? Serpents don't talk, even though as kids, we are programmed to believe that animals talk. Charlotte's Web, pigs and Dr. Doolittle, all these animals talking, right? We are made to believe that animals talk, but when we get a little older, we come to the reality, like we do about Santa Claus, but that's not my conversation. We come to the reality that it's not real. Animals don't talk. Now, They're talking about a serpent talking to Eve. Now, this don't make sense, but we let people teach and preach to us in this without question, saying, but if serpents don't talk, then how is this serpent talking to Eve? And the usual thing, well, with God, anything is possible. Back in the biblical days, they could talk. You wasn't there, so you just got accepted, right? But there's another option. You mind if I give you another option to what this really was about? Have you ever heard somebody refer to a person as a dog? That nigga a dog. Negro's a snake. Is he a real snake? Is he a real dog? He's exhibiting the characteristics of a snake, meaning that he's a slithery type nigga. He's don't give a, like dogs. Dogs will screw anybody, anything. Anything with a hole. That's the definition of a dog, ain't it? So if this was a person in the garden, this exhibiting serpent characteristics. It said he was soft. Serpents, forked tongue? Truth with one side of the tongue and then the lie on the other side, and they work together, causing deception. So if this was a dude, I'll be making real clear. There's a dude in the garden talking to Eve, right? Now, with that understanding, now let's read the rest of this and see if we can make any sense out of it. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, or dude, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Okay, now let's look at this. They're talking about eating fruit from trees, right? Everybody talking about this forbidden fruit, which they say is an apple, right? Now, think. This forbidden fruit is an apple whose logo is an apple with a bite missing. Come on now, y'all ain't making the connection. What organization, company, whatever, their logo is an apple. There's nothing wrong with having an apple as a logo, but why is there a bite out of it? The forbidden fruit was something that apples, so they said, it was an apple that they bit, that was bitten from, and it was forbidden, right? So you tell me, if this book that's supposedly written with God's inspiration or whatever, if this book says that this fruit was forbidden, then what do you think about the company that carries the logo of something that's forbidden? And it's $1 billion corporation. I'm not surprised. This is already Satan's world. Why not have his corporation? Oh, did I just say Apple was Satan's corporation?
Steve.
You know what? I try to make sense out of stuff. I just take stuff for face value, what people tell me, and you can take what I'm saying for face value. Research it. I'm saying here that if there are trees, and Eve is saying that God said that they could eat from the fruit of the trees of the garden. Now, Is this really about trees and fruit? What's being said here? If it is, then you can continue on without understanding of the Bible that don't make sense. I mean, let's just be real. This don't make sense. Serpents don't talk. Now, if you go a little further, you'll understand why these trees in the garden couldn't be trees. You read a little further, you see if you agree with me. It says in verse 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to go to verse 3. It says, but the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, God said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. There we go. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for God doeth know that in the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods. Little g's, not a big G, knowing good and evil. And then the woman saw, here it is, verse 6. And then the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes. And the tree to be desired to make one wise. I'm sorry. This tree makes you wise. I can go with, because some people are into plants and stuff like that. Oh, it's a beautiful tree. It's pretty. Oh, it's a fancy tree. It's a beautiful tree. But a tree to be desired to make one wise is not a description that you would get from a tree. Trees don't make you wise. Even if you eat the fruit of the tree, you ain't finna be wise. So that means, what is really being said here? What is this tree? And then what are we talking about? I mean, because let's just be real. My son is my fruit. Fruit of my loins. I've heard that too. Check this out. Because fruit, because they're talking about something that you are consuming, that you are eating, right? Now, is fruit or food the only thing that you eat? You're eating right now. Yeah. Y'all eating my words. You either gonna eat them or you're gonna spit them out. So that means fruit also can be defined as doctrine or teaching. Now, if fruit is actually dealing with teaching, then now let's go back to forbidding fruit. Forbidding teaching was being taught in the garden that Adam and Eve was not supposed to receive. And that forbidding teaching caused them to realize they was naked. We know what forbidden teaching was, don't we? It's right after it. Here come Cain and Abel. They didn't just pop by osmosis. So she took this fruit, drink, teaching, love, and eat, and gave it also to her husband with her, and he did eat. So this Negro, I'll just say that, because we don't know, well, we'll just leave it at that. In the garden, he looked at Eve, it's like, what's up, sweetie? You know, No, before I even go there, we need to deal with the tree part. Why do they refer to these things as trees and the fruit of the tree? Now, are we familiar with a thing called a family tree? Does that represent some tree that's sitting in the backyard and everybody say this is our family trees? No, we know that's not what that's talking about, because this ancestry thing deals a lot with family tree, right? And if you look at trees, trees have a root, right? Families have a root. There's what is it called? A patriarch or a matriarch of the family, and they, the oldest in the family, represent the root of the tree. Now, branches begin to stem from the tree. Y'all know from ancestry, they use trees as a mean to show you how your cousin is a branch over here, and you got cousins over there, and then they break them down into little leaves and all of this stuff, right? So now, if this tree in the garden that we're talking about, and God is telling Adam and Eve, you can learn from and be taught by these trees or these individuals, these families that are in the garden. But the one that's in the midst, excuse me, of the garden, you shall not, what did it say? It says, you shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. So now, let's look at Satan, the devil. He was cast out of heaven to the earth. I got about 20 minutes. Now, during this time, brothers and sisters, we need to know what do you think Lucifer, Satan, whoever, where he came to on the planet Earth when he got kicked out and received dominion over the earth for 6,000 years? And I know some people gonna question me. That go back to my lecture. I explain it. And it's another reason why we read the Bible and the Quran. Because in the Quran, it tells us the story about what happened in heaven, which caused Lucifer to get kicked out, whereas the Bible don't tell you that story. It just says a war took place in heaven, and a third of the angels got kicked out with Lucifer. That's all you get out of the Bible. But the Quran goes into why. So, I was reading. In this tree, in the midst of the garden, because understand something. Like a bike wheel, we've all seen bike wheels, right? It's round and it has spokes, right? And all these spokes in the wheel are connected to the center. There's a center point in the wheel that if you did not have that center point, the wheel would not be able to keep its round form, because it's all focused on the center of attention, the center, the leader. The leader is at the center. So that if Satan was cast out of heaven and he's on the earth, and in the Quran, I got to read this real quick so that you all can understand that I'm not making this up. Where is this in the Quran? I think it's in Surah 7. Y'all give me a minute. I didn't prepare to teach on this. So give me a minute. I was not prepared for this. I was teaching on something else. But still, this is let us make man again. Let me see. Do I see it? If I can't find it, I'm gonna just quote it. Maybe it's 11. It might be 2. Wait a minute. I think it might be in 2. But anyway, I'm gonna just go ahead and quote it because, and I wish I could read it. Okay, I don't know. The Quran teaches us that in heaven, God commanded all of the angels to bow down to Adam. And all the angels bow down except Iblis or Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. He refused to bow down. And then God asked Iblis. Iblis is the Arabic name again for Lucifer. And he asked Lucifer, why did you not bow down when I commanded you? Is it chapter 7? Beautiful. Thank you. I figured it was in 7. Sorry, I had 11. Surely you created. Okay. There we go. All right. So good. I'm glad you found this. I want them to think I'm making this up. Chapter 7, Surah 7, verse 11. It said, it is we who created you and gave you shape. Then we bade the angels bow down to Adam, and they bowed down. Not so Iblis. He refused to be of those who bowed down. Allah God said, what prevented thee from bowing down when I commanded thee? And he says, I am better than he. Thou did create me from fire and him from clay. Allah God says, get thee down from this. It is not for thee to be arrogant here. Get out. Thou art of the manifest of thou art of the meanest of creatures. He said, now this is Iblis or Lucifer saying now, on his way out the door. Now God giving him the boot, right? On his way out, he says, give me respite to the day they are raised up. Respite meaning time. Give me time, God. Okay, you putting me out, but give me time until the day you raise them up, which is an indication that until we are raised up, we are going to be low, which is where we are. The bottom of the bottom, right? Which is another indication of who God's people are. He says, give me respite till the day they are raised up. And Allah God said, but be thou amongst those who have respite. So that means he gave him time. And he said, because thou hast thrown me out of the way, lo, I will lie in wait for them on the straight way. Then I will assault them from before them and behind them, from their right and their left. For wilt thou find in most of them gratitude for thy mercies. So Lucifer's saying, okay, you put me out, but give me time. Give me time before you raise them up. And I will promise you that I'm going to lay in wait for them in the straight way, in the righteous way. What place on the planet Earth was more righteous than the garden? So what's Lucifer saying? I'm going to wait in the garden for them. And I will attack them. That's the word he used. He didn't say approach. He said attack them. And you will find most of them not grateful for the mercies that you have shown them. So, what am I saying? That Lucifer was in the garden. He, being the most subtle of creatures, approached Eve and deceived her into believing that if she ate of his doctrine, his teaching, that she will be a God just like God. Now, do we see where this feminine equal, what's it called? This 50-50, I'm just as good as you. You're not no better than me because you're a man, I'm a woman, and we equal in this thing. Equality. See, this is the seed that Lucifer or Satan, because when he got to the earth, his name changed. Satan planted in Eve in order to get her to eat or to receive what he was teaching. Wow. He tricking you. He holding you back. Girl, what's the other term he used? He don't want you to be great. He holding you back. He lying to you because if you get what I'm teaching you here, sister, you're gonna be a God just like him. And she like, oh, and so this is the beginning of it. And we now everything from that point all the way up into now is us adding walnuts and pecans and everything else to our to my pineapple cream cheese cake. We added all this crap to my pineapple cheesecake now, and there ain't a pineapple cheesecake no more. We even say we can even be agree to say that black people are almost no, I ain't gonna say almost. We're more white than white people. More European than the European, right? So now, how do we get back to our greatness? We keep saying it. We're going to get back to our once greatness, when we were in the Nile, and the ancient kingdom and all that stuff. That teaching is good. We can't use ancient Kim today with niggas. Niggas don't know nothing about ancient Kim. But we need to understand how a nigga was created. See, this is why my lecture today is let us make man again. Because I'm tired of niggas. So we need to reverse engineer this nigga back into a man. Can't do that unless we have to accept the realities that Satan has added all these different ingredients to us: spite, hate, jealousy, envy, lust, desire. All of these things were added to us. When we were in the garden, originally before, when we were naked, those things were not present with us. We were taught these things. We were taught to kill by the white man. Some people say, the white man never opened up a school to teach people how to kill. Yes, he did. He called it the army, the military. And he teaches us to kill. Man, I'm way off this paper. How much? Oh, I ain't got no time. I only got 5 minutes. Well, there's one point I want to make before we get out of here. Because, see, In the temple and even with God, marriage, see, Adam and Eve, well, I ain't gonna go there. I'll just say this. Marriage is the recipe that begins the process of creating the black family, or the God-fearing black family. I'll put it like that. Marriage, not shacking up. Now, shacking up begins the process of creating the satanic black family. Y'all feeling it? 3 more? I got 3 minutes. Oh, yeah. Shacking up does that. Because see, there's no responsibility. There's no I've got to hang in here for the long haul mentality kind of thinking. You know, I even noticed this, that back in the days when we were black men and black women and we were getting married, our families were much larger. 10, 15 kids. You see what I'm saying? Now, what I'm going to tell you now is to show you why it's not like that anymore. Check this out. Did you know that before you got married, you had to have a blood test? Back in the day, they used to make you, before you can get a marriage license, you had to have a blood test. And I don't know when they stopped it, but they didn't create a law saying that you can't do it. They just said you can get married and you ain't got to. So that means, you already know how we are. If I ain't got to do it, I ain't gonna do it. This was the reason why we were asked to get a blood test before we got married. Check this out. Let me read a little story that I found online. It's pretty interesting. It says back in the day, it took a blood test. The names I'm just using in this article is Jack and Jill. Okay, it took it took a blood test for Jack and Jill, to save their marriage. The couple who got married in 2016 battled childlessness, which mounted a lot of pressure on them, especially Jill. Jill stated how she experienced miscarriages anytime she got pregnant for the first 2 years of their marriage. She said each time the miscarriage occurred, she was depressed. Understandably so, being a would-be mother would feel sad about pregnancy loss. The situation continued until mid-2018 when Jill and her husband relocated to another town. I ain't gonna go into all that and skip that part of where they relocated to and everything. Okay, now when they got to this other town, they were advised to visit a consultant who asked them to do a blood test, which they never did before they had got married. There was it was one health clinic where they came from. So after that, when they got to this place, they went to a clinic. But after the blood test, it was revealed that the couple's blood type was incompatible. Because while Jack had A positive blood type and Jill was B negative blood type, medical experts explain why the blood type of the couple is a serious issue, especially when planning a family. So, what's that saying? Because of their incompatibility of their blood, she was having miscarriages. Now, if I'm trying to stunt the growth of your race, then miscarriage is a good thing for me. And so if I tell you you ain't got to get a blood test when you get married, you think you're doing good because you're getting married. By not having that blood test to recognize whether your blood types are compatible, you are putting yourself in a position where you can have problems raising a family, or the woman will have problems. I'm out of time. Where the woman will have problems having children, and that will cause problems in the relationship, and that's why we have a lot of the challenges that we're having today, financial, and the fact that sex, and I'm gonna continue this, but it just ain't gonna be today. But why all of these things play a part in why we are in the condition that we're in, and we have to know all this stuff so that we know now what to do. We know one thing that we can do to reverse engineer this thing before we have sex. Get a blood test. I leave you as I greeted you in the ancient beget holy words of peace. Hotep Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Habaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. Peace.
In the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power! Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Good evening, family. How's everyone doing this evening or afternoon? And if you're on Facebook land, it might be morning somewhere. I'd just like to begin by reciting our opening in the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent, the one who directs the sunships of millions and trillions of years, the one who's made time the seed of the universe. Known among the ancient Kemites or the indigenous people of Africa is Amun-Ra Aten. Among the Hebrews is Ansof, Yahweh, and Elohim. Among the Christians is Lord God and Jehovah. Among the Muslim and the Islamic world is Allah, the one God. Among the Rastafarians is Jah, Rastafari. We at the Temple of Mercy Association bear witness that all of these names refer to the same one eternal divine spirit, and it's to that essence and that essence alone that we give reverence and to whom we submit. We boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13th tribe, born in North America, and we are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. The blood of all the nations of the earth flow through our veins. I greet you in the ancient but holy words of peace, which are Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Abaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. All the greetings and salutations in the various languages and religions that we happen to find black people in America involved in. And if you don't have a religious persuasion and you just come from the south side of Chicago like me, what's up, Joe? Today, my title is The Culture of the Believer. The culture of the believer. Because for some reason, I don't know about y'all, but there's so much talk about our culture as a people, and what is being defined as our culture is not the culture or the purpose that God created us for. Our culture, most commonly described in the media, is usually through entertainment, through the music industry. And most of the music, 99.9999% of what we are presented as our culture is a culture of death. The drill, the slide, the kill music. And they say we're doing it for the culture. That's not the culture of black people. That's not the reason God said in the Bible, come, let us make man in our likeness and after our image. He didn't create us for a world of sport and a world of play, but he created us with a world of intention and a world of purpose. And so as Minister Tahaka just alluded to, we have to begin to redefine and redevelop those things that we consider culture among us, that we can determine what's in the best interest of our community. Gun violence is at an all-time high. Almost every piece of music out by young people today is the use of some gun, the use of some drugs, and the misuse of some resources. And it seems to continue to perpetuate into our communities, but nobody really wants to connect the dots. Nobody really wants to go to the root of what's causing the violence in our community. In the past 2 weeks, we lost somewhere between 10 and 13 teenage children to gun violence. We lost young adults to gun violence. And we come out as a people, and the only thing that we can say is, Lord, I don't know what's wrong with these children. There's nothing wrong with these children because God made them. I'm going to say that again. There's nothing wrong with these children because God made them. The challenge and the problem that we have in our community is that someone else is influencing the behavior of our children in our community. It is normal for boys to fight, young boys. It's normal. It's a form of masculinity. It's a form of aggression that, if directed in the right manner, it would not lead to death. The challenge that we got in our community is that somebody opened up a flood of illegal, quick kill weapons of mass destruction in our community. There are no more 6-shooters, ain't no more single shot, 2-shot rifles. These children got access to 50-round drums, 100-round drums, 200-round drums. Who designed that and put that in our community? And created the condition for us to kill ourselves like this? Why is there no connection between the flood of guns in our community and the people that are making the guns? If we're going to get to the root of the gun violence in our community, we got to start with where the gun was made. I don't know about y'all, but I love watching the Blacklist with Raymond Reddington. And in many instances in this show, they would find out what type of weapon was used, trace it back to the manufacturer, find out who the arms dealers was that was selling that gun, and they can figure out who you sell that gun to, who had that gun, who would have access to these type of guns, and they would be able to pinpoint, it was this person, it was that person. Well, when are we going to be able to pinpoint who's doing this in our community? Why are not Black people coming against the National Rifle Association, which is continuing to push the use and the distribution of these guns in America, but yet we won't say one word about the National Rifle Association. We won't say one word about the alcohol industry, knowing that it's been taught to us by many people in the past, all the way back since the 90s, when Brother Mandrake was on the scene, that there were chemicals being put into the alcohol that cause violent tendencies. And we know that alcohol is the gateway drug to almost drug that we get addicted to. It's the gateway to violence and murder. If you grew up in the 90s like I did, when we got ready to go humbug with another block or another neighborhood, as young men always do, somebody always pulled out a bottle of Old English 800. And I remember one of the older guys used to call it the liquid courage. Man, you take your couple swings of this, you won't be scared no more. You won't see their numbers as bigger than ours. We'll be able to go over there, take that block down. Come on, man. Take a swig of this Old English 800. They call it the courage juice. And if that was going on in the 90s, and there's a distinct difference between the alcohol that Black children drink and the alcohol that white children drink, then we ought to know that there has to be some validity to the allegations that were made and the proof that Dr. Powell had put out in his book, 40 Ounces and the Thieves. And so we got to begin to look at it. We got to begin to analyze and do our own due diligence and research. Why is it that all of our alcohol has to have violent tendencies. We drink 211. Is that not the police code for homicide? We drink Coke 45. Is that not a gun? But if you live in a white neighborhood, the name of your beer is Goose Island. It's Killian's Red. It's pale ale. No connotation to death. It don't taste the same. It don't give you the same violent tendencies, but it does what alcohol is supposed to do. It does inebriate you, but you don't leave inebriated wanting to go pick up a gun and do something to somebody. So we got to begin to define what culture really is to our community and who's going to be in charge of what culture is going to look like. Thank God for Bill Cosby. He gave us a culture in the 90s of Black people doing positive things under the roof of a husband and wife and children, going to school and going to college and living a positive and productive lifestyle. While at the same time in the 90s, some other wicked enemy decided that it would be better for us to be boys in the hood, New Jack City, niggas with attitudes, and all of these other foul, defiled things that they wanted to introduce and call it our culture. We was old, dirty bastard. That was what they turned our music into and fed it back to us as our culture. Why am I continuing to harp on they? Because it is impossible to talk about the solution of Black people and talk about getting us out of the condition that we in and not have to bring up that hidden perpetrator that is perpetrating and providing the atmosphere for the murder and the death to take place. Minister Tarka said something a few minutes ago that is just mind-boggling. How is it that every year we say, oh, we only had 660 homicides, crime is down, and we go back to sleep? We turn the Facebook and the internet off, and we turn off the TV or close up our Sun-Times and our newspaper, and we say, "Ooh, thank God, it's getting better." But those numbers have been like that for how long? How many of us have been killed? There are nobody in our race that have the same degree of love or arrogance for our people as a Netanyahu, who said the fingernail of one of their privileged people was worth more than the entire Palestinian race. There's nobody in our community. There's no leader. There's no preacher. There's no teacher. There's no pastor. There's no prophet. There's no religion that believes the loss of Black life is now a challenge. The only time that we can speak about it is when someone comes against us personally, and now we want to attack that entity publicly. But we don't know that this has been going on. We don't know that Planned Parenthood been killing 30 million babies every single year, not just the year that Kanye quoted. We don't know that we can go all the way back to the book of the Bible where it says, "Come, let us deal wisely with them," speaking of the children of Israel. Lest they multiply, less chance they have of joining an enemy and coming against us. Who is us? For y'all that think we keep playing the blame game, why we always got to mention these privileged people? Why we always got to put the sandbox people on blast? Why we always got to put the icebox people on blast? Because they're the hidden hand. They are at the root cause of what's going on in our community. And if we're going to get rid of violence, if we're going to get rid of crime, if we're going to reduce the trauma of our people in our community, we got to go to the root of this problem. So Matthew chapter 13, verse 24, Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is like unto a man which soweth good seed in his field. In the Temple of Mercy Association, Minister Rahim taught us that time was the seed of the universe. And he used the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to expand our minds to know that the black man and woman have been on this planet 66 trillion years. That the earth has been here 72 trillion years. That the universe has been here 76 trillion years. Why is that important for us to have a time to be able to look at all of what's going on? Because in our community, our people are more caught up in the clothes, the garment, and the attribute of the eternal divine spirit. That same eternal divine spirit that we talk about in our opening is the same eternal divine spirit that lived in Marcus Garvey. That same eternal divine spirit lived in the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That same eternal divine spirit lived in Ben Ami Ben Israel. That same eternal divine spirit lived in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That same eternal divine spirit lived in Prophet Noble Drew Ali. That same divine spirit lived in Yashua, HaMashiach, the Messiah, the Black Christ. That same eternal divine spirit. So when are we as black people going to rise above the dress, the religion, the prayer, the customs of this same one eternal divine spirit that lived in them all, and stop gangbanging among each other, and stop telling those of us that don't subscribe to those particular religions the way that you prescribe to those religions, that who are we to teach Muhammad? And who are we to tell Muhammad about Muhammad's business? What type of arrogance is that? To tell somebody that because you don't wear the name Muhammad and because you don't subscribe to the religion of Islam, you shouldn't be listened to. Oh, you silly disciple of Muhammad. What did Jesus say about that? We're going to get to that. But I want to talk about this man that sowed good seed in his field. Because the intention of planting a seed is harvest time, isn't it? Is that not the end result of what we want to do when we plant a seed? So if we're talking about culture, the first culture we got to take back is our agriculture. Because as long as we continue to eat the food that Satan is providing for us, the number of times that he's saying we need to eat it every day, we will no longer be able to be in shape to deal with fighting him and producing the man that God wanted to produce when he created us. We got to take back our agriculture. We got to begin to feed ourselves. We got to use what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us and how to eat to live so that we can live. And understand that you don't eat just because you say your stomach is hungry, but you eat because you want to give your body nutrients and nutrition so that this body can perform at its highest best. Many people drive imported cars and fancy cars that don't require, you can't use the cheap 87 gas. You got to use the 93, or you got to add a special type of oil to your car, because if you don't, it'll drive, but it's not going to perform the way that it was designed to perform. And that's the same thing with these human bodies. Minister Rahim taught us to be a scientist in the laboratory of ourselves so that we can begin to see the miracle of God, so that we can understand and receive what God has for us. And so that's why we, in the month of December, practice the Ramadan fast started by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because he said the fast was started to help us not just subdue ourselves, but to help us not partake in the falsehood of Santa Claus and the death of Yashua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Notice he said the falsehood of. I just don't understand how long we're going to lie to our children about some fat white man in some red long underwear with cocaine under his nose, and his buddy standing next to him and snorted up all his cocaine, so his nose is red as ever. So when are we going to start telling our children the truth? But Matthew 13, verse 25 says, but while men slept, it says his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. Understand that for a seed to get to the point of harvest, the first thing that seed does is it splits and it sends a shoot down into the ground that forms the roots of whatever's about to take place. It says an enemy came and planted tares in the same field that God planted his seed in. And so if we want to get to the root of this situation, understand that the tare and the wheat underground at the root, they both look the same. Satan's whole understanding or whole so-called power that he has over us is to make things that are wrong fair seeming. He actually has no power. The tare can't destroy the seed, but the tare can serve as a distraction and a discouragement to keep us from meeting God's potential for us when that seed is planted in us. So the tare represents the infrastructure of racism, and the wisdom of waiting is like the opioid of faith, because you can't just go and say, there's a tare among the wheat, let's just go dig it all up and we'll be able to get to the tare, because the tare and the wheat at the root look the same. And so if you do that, you'll destroy the harvest. And so you just can't take black people and remove us from the influence of white people and think everything is going to be okay, because they've sowed some tares among us too. And as Minister Tahaka said, we become more European than the European in his thinking, because he is the number one murderer on the planet. He is the one in charge of nuclear weapons that can push a button and wipe off part of the face of the earth. Black people didn't create stuff like that. He is. And so we can't just uproot ourselves totally from white people and think our challenges will be gone tomorrow because we got all of their thinking in our head. We got all of their religious understandings instead of overstanding. All their religious understandings. So the most valuable seed that we need to plant is the seed called time. Because at the appropriate time, God will show us when harvest time is. And when harvest time comes, then you'll be able to take up the tares and the wheat, and you'll be able to distinguish what's a tare and what's a wheat. Because in harvest time, it doesn't matter as much, because the goal is to take the harvest and to get the fruit from the seed that's planted. But at that time, you'll be able to distinguish the two and take the tare and put it in a bundle, and you'll be able to burn to get rid of it, while you'll be able to receive the fruit of the harvest that God is planting. Well, what is this harvest, or what is this fruit that God has intended for us? God intended for us to do three things. He intended for us to do and to follow his commandments. He intended that, and through that process, that we will become like him, because we were created in his image and his likeness. And then the third thing is for us to reproduce him in other people. So we have to begin to re-educate, to retrain youth and young adults to do what? To have some positive moral values, because we don't have values anymore. Morality is not something that's being talked about in our community. The moment you point out anything about anybody, they become sensitive and hyper aggressive and want to beat you down and fight you and tell you why you want to shame me, and as if shame is a bad thing now. When I was growing up, that's all you heard. Boy, you to be ashamed of yourself. You know your mama raised you better than that. And right then, the shame would sink in, and you would begin to feel some type of remorse. And everything that they said at that point, you would take in, and prayerfully, it would lead to a difference in your behavior. And somewhere in that process, you knew that some type of punishment was going to come with that too. So most of the remorse wasn't just because they shamed you, but it was because you knew the consequence was coming for embarrassing this family. For letting that woman have to come down here and tell me about my child, and you knew you did it and didn't come tell me first. Or was I the only person who had a mama and a grandmama like that? But the purpose of culture, in the root word of culture is the word cult. What is a cult? A cult is defined as a loving organization. A loving organization. How could rap music be the culture of Black people and it not even be what the definition of the word says it is? How can it be? Minister Rahim taught us in such an unorthodox method that many people of different faiths consider us to be perpetrating a fraud, consider us to be following or stealing their teachers' teachings or something, so to say. The first thing Minister Rahim did in the Temple of Mercy Association was let you know who had the greatest amount of the eternal divine spirit in them. He shared with us who these people were. He taught us their teachings. He taught us their teachers' teachings and showed us how they themselves had grown so beyond the religious label that they held on themselves that it was of a greater understanding. Meaning, he didn't connect the Temple of Mercy Association to a religion. He connected us to the one God. Minister Rahim Kased Atem's name means mercy, mercy of the one God. What do we mean when we say the one God? Meaning that everything comes from the great mind. A great mind woke us up this morning. A great mind started us on our way. And if we're ever to see or be in the presence of this great mind, we have to follow what the great mind instructed us to do. And in that process, we'll become a smaller version or representative of the great mind. We're not going to become the great mind, but we'll become a reflection of it, and we'll be able to say, like Yashua, when you see me, you see the Father. But why? Because I only do the things that please him. I do the things that he created me to do. I uphold the righteous and moral principles that he placed in the earth. As how do you know my people? How will you be able to distinguish those that follow the great mind is by their action, their morality, their deeds, and their works, not by what comes out of their mouth, not by the dress that they're wearing. So Black people, we got to stop all of this religious gangbanging and recognize the uniqueness. Man, that eternal divine spirit got in Marcus Garvey and reminded us that we had to have a race first philosophy and internal and and eternal trading mechanisms among Black people in Africa and in America. He would say it with the Africans at home and abroad. But that understanding had to be upgraded, because you can get a little confused when you start talking about race first. Because one of the biggest fights and challenges Black people have is we don't know who to connect ourselves to. We keep trying to connect ourselves to the sandbox people, the icebox people, the Moroccans, the Europeans, the Anu, the Ashuns, the Osirises, the Horuses, and not understanding that we are supposed to be connected to the great mind. We're supposed to be connected to God, not his attributes, not his dress, not his holy book, not his method of prayer, but directly to God. So we thank the most honorable Marcus Garvey for being used by this great eternal divine spirit. We thank the most honorable Elijah Muhammad for receiving the knowledge of self, how to eat, to live, and do for self from the eternal great mind. We recognize and accept Ben Ami Ben Israel of the African Hebrews of Jerusalem for that divine spirit living and dwelling in him. We honor and respect Dr. Martin Luther King for his struggle for civil rights and eventual transformation to economic and political empowerment. We thank that eternal divine spirit for him accepting and raising up Prophet Noble Drew Ali to remind us of our nationality, birthright, and creed. We thank the eternal divine spirit for Jesus, Yashua HaMashiach, the Black Messiah, for reminding us of our anointing and our salvation and our purpose for life, which was to fulfill the law of God. We thank him and recognize each one of these people's uniqueness in being able to represent the eternal divine spirit. But we do not and we will not take one of these above the other.
Say that.
Muhammad is not better than Jesus, and Jesus is not better than Muhammad. Based on whatever title or situation that you want to put on them and saying who's better. Just the thought of saying I'm better than my brother brings you into the understanding of becoming Satan, because that's how he was created. When the gods created Adam and they asked Iblis to bow, and everybody bowed but Iblis, because Iblis had the audacity and the arrogance to stand up there and say, I'm better than him. I'm made of smokeless fire. He's made of mud. Why should I bow to him? And that's the same arrogance that Black people got today. And in the Temple of Mercy Association, we got to suffer on all sides, standing up and defending the life, the legacy, and times of these honorable men. We're not Muslim. We don't wear the name Muhammad, but we subscribe to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And because we do, we automatically inherit the enemies that want to come against and wipe this man out of history. Not only that, but we got to endure the members, not all, but some of his members who think because we don't wear the name Muhammad and we don't accept Islam, that who are we to even teach about the most honorable Elijah Muhammad? Because if you really understood the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, you would be in the nation. Well, when I read the book, it said message to the Black man. It didn't say message to Muhammad. It said message to the Black man in America, and in the Temple of Mercy Association, that is our sole duty, is to the Black men and women in the hells of North America, not all over the world. We have a specific assignment and a specific duty to be here to resurrect those chosen people of God that got all the nationality and blood of everybody on the earth flowing through their veins, because God is creating a 13th tribe right here in North America. And so that's why we don't subscribe to your particular religions. But that don't mean we're not going to take the teachings of the eternal divine spirit that came through that person. It's not yours. Some of us think when we gain a knowledge and understanding of God, it's ours. This is ours now. And we want to hold on to it and keep it to our chest, and only those that come under your particular persuasion, religions, and pay their tariffs and tithes and what am I trying to say, zakat, then now you're a true person under Islam. No, you don't get away with that, because we connected to the eternal divine spirit, and we're going to recognize him everywhere and in everybody we see him in. And we can never thank the Creator enough for placing his eternal divine spirit in our leader, teacher, and guide, Minister Rahim Kased Aten, so that we can rise above these petty differences and understandings among religion, so that we can see from the thinking of God and what he intended to create it, and how his children are all over the place, scattered, holding on to a piece of his knowledge and not really having the whole picture, and can't see the whole picture, because every time we found a piece of his knowledge, we want to take the one that we had before that and throw it away. Instead of putting the pieces together so we can see the whole picture, we want to go through one. We might start out Christian, learn about Islam, so we throw the Christianity away, and then we learn about ancient Kemet, then we want to throw both of them away, because we start to begin to believe that people are plagiarizing, and this is the same story happening over and over again. They must have stole our history. That's why Minister Rahim taught us that the earth been here 66 trillion years. They all lived. It all happened. Cycles and things continue to repeat themselves. And so regardless of how they might have tricked us in these books, because you get some people who don't want to understand the eternal divine spirit because they say, y'all quote them books too much. Well, these books represent him. But when you got a direct connection to him, you can take these books and throw them in that garbage over there, and God can still use and speak through you and give you the same thing in these scriptures. These scriptures are supposed to bear witness to you and show you how far you are either on the path or off the path. And if you are a believer or a disbeliever, because it's going to show you through the character and attitude of those that walk before you which side you on. So that's why these books are important. That's why scripture is important. That's why we got to come and read our Holy Bible. That's why we got to take our Holy Quran and read them, because Minister Rahim said one represented 180 degrees of knowledge and the other represented 180 degrees of knowledge. And if you put them together, you'll get 360. Add your 5 senses to it and you will have some damn sense. We fight. Every time we talk about the enemy, somebody in his religious cult want to come against you. So now we've become whores to religion. Don't talk about the sandbox people, because they represent Islam and we represent Islam. And so when you come against them, you come against the teachings of the prophet. And the Quran told us we're supposed to behead people that come against the teachings of the prophet. No, we're not coming against the teachings of the prophet. We're actually living the teachings of the prophet and uncovering the enemy that's hiding behind these religions and doing his dirty work and destroying our people. So black people, if you want to know the solution, unity starts in alliances and building solidarity among the nations of gods on earth, with all of these different religions that happen to be number one in America. The Garvey understanding, Elijah Muhammad and his Islam. And I hope I don't offend nobody by saying his Islam, because, well, I'm sorry, we just so happen to be pro-black, and we just so happen to be black nationalists. And the Islam that he taught said the black man is God. That's a race first philosophy, a race first philosophy. He said every time you look at the black man, you see God. Well, the religion of Islam won't even give the prophet a color, won't even tell you what he looked like. but we know we black. We're going to study and understand our relationship to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that we are the original Hebrews or the original Jews, and that these so-called Johnny-come-lately Jews, who even call themselves Jews, can't be of the lineage of Abraham and Israel because of the language that they're using, and that the J has only been in existence 500 years. You can't be the original using an alphabet that got here yesterday. The Hebrew religion didn't start yesterday. You stole somebody's birthright. You stole somebody's nationality. You stole somebody's land. And you stole somebody's inheritance. But that's all right. We're not going to fight you over the land, because we know the book teaches us that the earth is ours and the fullness thereof. So wherever we step feet on 2 feet, topsoil of God's good earth is ours. You're not gonna get us caught up in the fight about going back to nowhere. No, we own it all. We ain't got to go back to Africa. We own that too. But we own America. We own Europe. We own every part of this planet, because that's what God gave us as a home. And so I'm hoping that something I'm saying is like the kingdom of heaven and the man who sowed good seeds in his field, because I'm sowing these seeds into the minds and the hearts of those that are under the sound of my voice and those that are listening on Facebook, because we have to understand who we are. We got to have and develop some type of race esteem that is among us. And we got to stop fighting these fights. We got to stop letting their teaching of more science tell us that we are only connected to Native Americans and we're not supposed to be connected to Africans. And then the other group are saying, no, we don't supposed to be connected to the natives because the natives enslaved our people and benefited from slavery. We only supposed to be connected to Africans. And then another group is saying, well, the transatlantic slave trade didn't even take place. Show me proof. And so everybody is connecting us to their slave master history and wanting us to accept that as the be all. And then we're supposed to denounce everybody else for them. When I'm telling you the blood of all the nations, we are the original native. We are the original people of Kemet. And I said Kemet because Africa was named after an Italian Jew, Louis Africanus. That wasn't the original name of our land, nor was it our original tongue. So we don't have to get caught up in fighting over different titles and names. But we're going to have to, Black people in our community, form some alliances, have some solidarity among each other. We got to rise above these religious differences that continue to keep us in the condition that we find ourselves in, which is against each other, not working together. I don't want y'all, I hope y'all don't believe that all Europeans get along with each other. World War I, II, and III should have showed you. They don't get along with each other either. They fight. But when it's time to deal with an enemy that's threatening their very existence, they know how to put aside all that religious stuff, all that ethnicity stuff, all that everything that may divide them and come together and deal with their enemies. Why we can't do the same? Why we can't come and stand as a united front against gun violence in our community and not worry about if everybody claim their nationality that day or got their card, or worry about if everybody there is a Muslim or a Black Peace Stone Nation, and not worry about if somebody come to the set that's from the Gangster Disciples and they not really up with it. And so when we begin, I think everything has to start and begin in God. So we got to pray in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. And then for those that don't subscribe to that, now we got to make them feel some kind of way, because they remember that same prayer when they was incarcerated, and that same person that did that prayer gave them a pumpkin head. So now you want them to come out on the street and accept your prayer. And if they don't, something wrong with them. But all the hurt and harm that's been done to us under these religious persuasions and titles, we can't seem to take these things and set them to the side and understand it just what they are. They titles. The greatest title man can have is brother, is sister. Not all this religious stuff. We got to put that stuff to the side. We got to put that stuff on the table. We got to leave it outside the door when we sit at the table of alliance and the table of solidarity to deal with what we're dealing with in our community. Homicide don't skip over nobody's religion. Bullets don't bypass nobody because they got a Holy Quran and hit the person with the Bible. It's taking us all out. I'm tired of trying to bring us together in the community to deal with the challenge. And before we could deal with the emergency that's going on in the community, which is the children and women not being protected and killed, we got to deal with your religious philosophy. I got to accept my nationality and get my card. I got to go get my ex and my Muhammad and write my letter before we can really work together. I got to grow my beard and say shalom, shalom before you will come and deal with the killer that's rampant in our community. Are y'all serious? Y'all that petty? It's an emergency. When it's an emergency and you hurt and you go to the doctor, are you going to stop the doctor before they operate and say, hold on, are you Muslim? Have you accepted Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior? Then when you can't operate on me, are you going to stop the doctor from saving your life because they didn't prescribe to your religion? I don't know. We so crazy, some of us might. But we are in trouble, y'all. But God is always going to be God. And everything that God has for us, he have a purpose. And so we have to decide, are we going to be his purpose or are we going to be an example of his punishment and his consequence? Are we the believers? Are we going to set aside religious and philosophical differences? Are we going to set aside cultural differences to be seen and known as a believer? Are we going to let the seed take root in us under the oneness of God so that when harvest time comes, we can all still be here coexisting together? Or are we just going to stay in disunited and die? I know we all heard about the fist and the fingers, and that grandma said if you pull them all together, you can strike a mighty blow. Is that just going to continue to be grandma saying? Or are we going to be that mighty fist and come together? Man, so much going on in our community, so many solutions, but we don't want to accept it because we don't agree with somebody's religion. We don't agree with somebody's understanding. Man, the hell with all of that. You got to get what you need to get so that you can do what you need to do. We talk about the education of our children. If they don't treat you right, what makes you think they're going to teach you right? I sent my kids to third world, to the International Institute of Positive Education's Barbara Sizemore and Betty Sabar's International Charter Schools, founded by Hakeem Mabutu, so that my children can learn learn our history, get and understand what a race first philosophy is. And then when it came to discipline, because they didn't have as much discipline as the Nation of Islam, the minister told me, send my kids to Muhammad University. And I sent them to Muhammad University. And my family thought I was a madman. You sending my babies over there to become Muslims? And that was at the time when we were talking about the war in Iraq and Iran, and Muslims was going around blowing up buses and this and that. And my mother them thought that I was just lost my mind. Why would I be sending my children to become Muslims? I said, Mama, they're not going to that school to become Muslims. No more than when you sent my sister to Catholic school did you intend on her becoming a nun. You sent her to that school because of the disciplines and what was being taught. And because Minister Rahim had already told us who Minister Louis Farrakhan was on our scene, it would only make good sense to send my children to his school so that they can be taught and educated, because we didn't have one to replace him. What no other options but those two schools. I hope God hurry up and bless Dr. Umar. I think he got a great idea. But a lot of y'all ain't gonna support him because he beat up y'all damn religion. And y'all ain't gonna forgive him for that. That's why y'all don't want to help him. What he's trying to do is right. But we represent the one God in the Toma nation. And I just want to read a little history about Aten and who he was. He was an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled during the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom appeared in ancient Egypt. And he was famous for transforming the traditional religions of Egypt from the many worships of God to a single God named Aten. He was born in Egypt in 1372 BC. Once he became pharaoh, Aten decided to reform the Egyptian religion. For thousands of years, the Egyptians had worshipped various gods such as Amun, Isis, Osiris, Horus, and Thoth. Don't that sound like today? Black people in America and they various gods such as Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Anu, and some of us subscribe to these gods that I just named. Don't that sound the same? To believe in a single God, or in the temple of mercy, as we say, the eternal divine spirit. So when you ask me about the Toma nation and why don't we stop what we doing and come and get with you and stop perpetrating the fraud, I hope you understanding what our purpose is. Rahim Kasedatin is the mercy of the one God. And I'm telling you right now, black people need some mercy. Grace is gone. We out of time. We in the book of Revelation. All y'all still running around talking about prophets and prophecy. Ain't no more prophecy. Prophecy has been fulfilled. You either a believer or a disbeliever, and you either gonna get the punishment or the wrath of God. And just like the tares and the wheat, when you get your butt whooped, sometimes they look the same. But black people, when you get your butt whooped, you better understand that when God whooping your butt, like your mama used to tell me, this is hurting me more than it's hurting you. I'm grown, I understand that now. I thought my mama was crazy when she said that to me. You're gonna whoop my butt and it's gonna hurt you more than it hurt me. Really? When I'm the one catching these belt whips. But it's the truth. God only chastises those whom he loves. So we got to come back to the understanding of the one God. That's why we have the Temple of Mercy Association, an all-inclusive, black conscious, righteous movement dedicated to the social, spiritual, and economic upliftment of black people. And I don't think it's one religion that I've named or one group that I talked about that don't have that as one of their goals or one of their aims that they seek to have happen. We want the upliftment of black people. We want the protection of our women and children. We want to control the distribution and market share of what comes into our community, because we know to control market share means that we're going to control the currency and circulate it so that we can create the necessary jobs to get rid of the 93 unemployment percent rate among 24 to 30-year-olds. That's the most dangerous group. That's the group that's out here being killed because they out here partying all the doggone time off of these drugs and alcohol. And that's the group that's being killed because they're not at work. If you was working like you were supposed to be, some of this trouble we wouldn't get in because you wouldn't have time to get in trouble. You wouldn't be worried about your safety and walking around with a 100 clip in your pocket. So the Temple of Mercy Association is here. We located at 616 East on 71st Street. You can join us here on Sundays from 12:30 to 2 in person. You don't have to just watch us on Facebook, but if you are watching us on Facebook, I want you to like and subscribe to our page so that you can get the notifications about what's going on in this movement. And if you agree with what I told you before, which is the social, spiritual, and economic upliftment of Black people, you know it takes finance to uplift a nation. And so we ask you to see our Cash App and our Givelify donations in the chat. And if God so put it on your heart to donate to us, we ask you to join the Toma Nation. You don't have to have a religion to be a member of the Toma Nation. And if you got a religion, you can bring it in here as long as you're not going to use it as a divisive tool to get at somebody else, because we believe that all these religions represent a fraction of the truth of the knowledge of the Creator. And I don't know what school y'all went to, but the school I went to taught us when you want to add fractions, you got to find a common denominator. When you want to add fractions, you find a common denominator. Anything else ain't a God. So join us each and every Sunday at 12:30, 616 East on 71st Street. Donate to our Cash App or our Givelify and come be a part of the solution that you want to see. Help us to build these alliances and solidarity among our different groups and brothers. Because we love the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We love the Honorable Marcus Garvey. We love Ben Ami Ben Israel. We love the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And we love Yashua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Some call him Jesus. We love all of them because we come from all of them. And all of those are our brothers. The eternal divine spirit is our Father. And we're all God's children. So we're not going to be divided among somebody's religious persuasion and understanding and label and titles that they want to put on us. We're going to unite. We're going to do everything we can to protect and save our women and children and our communities. And we're going to help reduce some of this trauma and violence in our community. And we're not going to go to the root of the problem. We're going to tell you exactly what's going on, exactly who's doing what. And we're not going to be afraid to tell you what's going on. We've been saying since the 90s, since we began, what Kanye just told y'all. We've been saying since the 90s what Kyrie is coming into the knowledge of, that we were the original Hebrews. We the original people under the light of the sun. And for all of y'all that think that we're a member or a follower of Albert Pike because you see this compass in this square, Albert Pike is not our father. The masonry that we subscribe to don't come from Europe. The masonry that we subscribe to comes from ancient Kim, and it consists of 7 degrees. It's not the Knights Templar. It's not the 32nd or the 33rd, because those are the degrees that Albert Pike, under the Ku Klux Klan, initiated and created, and that was the terror among Black people that he put in so that he can meet us on a level while he take his people to the 33rd degree and tell them that we have, as far as possible, extinguished every avenue by which light can enter into the slave's mind. We have him now on the level of a beast, and as long as he stay on the level of a beast, we should be safe. Only beasts fight over religion and not use it to uplift some people. So no, we are not the children of Albert Pike, because you see this square and compass, but we understand that masonry, in the beautiful system of morality that it is, and all of how it's veiled and allegory and illustrated by signs and symbols, it is definitely a tool that's going to help us unite Black people, because we understand that each one of those degrees in masonry represents the majority of these religions that we talked about. And so that is one of Minister Rahim's efforts to bring unity to the Black community. I thank you for listening. I leave you as I greeted you in the ancient but yet holy words of peace, in the languages of our forefathers, in Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, and the Baragani. Peace.
In the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power! Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
In the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent, the one who directs the sunships of millions and trillions of years, the one who made time, the seat of the universe. He's known among the ancient Kemites or Egyptians as Amun-Ra and Aten, among the Hebrews as Ansof, Yahweh, Elohim, among the Christians as Lord, God, and Jehovah, among the Muslims as Allah, the one God, among the Rastafarians as Jah, Rastafari, among the Yoruba tribe as Olodumare, Obatala, and many other Orisha gods. But I bear witness that, but I bear witness that, oh Lord, what's I'm doing what Omari did. I bear witness that all of those names refer to the same one almighty divine spirit. And it is to that eternal divine spirit that I give reverence and to whom I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, those children of those Black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, is that lost 13th tribe, born here in North America, and that we are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of all the nations of the world flow through our veins. I greet you all in the ancient but yet holy words of peace in the languages of our fathers, of Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Abarigani, Alafia, and Ashe. All greeting words and salutations of peace in the many different languages of our fathers. I greet you in peace. Welcome, welcome to the Toma Nation. As you heard earlier, we're located at 616 East on 71st Street, right here in Chicago, Illinois. I am Brother Minister Rahim Aten. I'm the founder of this great movement, but yet, along with our co-founder, Minister Omari Jahi Aten, and the First Lady of this movement, Sister Makita Aisha Aten. And today, I know that a lot of you people are celebrating something that they call Christmas. I will not spend my whole lecture talking about the Christmas celebration. The title of my lecture is Mary, Jesus, and Why Were They Sent Here? Ladies and gentlemen, this particular lecture is for your third eye only. So if you are not ready and have not opened that pineal gland or that third eye, you will not get the message. And so I want to start here so we can get an understanding that the Creator and what He's given to us, and when I say us, I'm talking about His messengers, could sometimes be a little bit much for some of us to receive. But I'm asking you to open up your heart and your mind to receive what you are about to hear. And again, I want to say this, that my lectures are basically for black people, but yet others will hear it. But I'm for black people first. And I want to start off again by saying the black man is God. The black man is God. The earth is at least, brothers and sisters, 66 to 78 trillion years old. The Old Testament, brothers and sisters, is 4,000 years old. The information is from 4,000 years ago, and it's been around that long. And the New Testament is 2,000, a total of 6,000 years. Now, Satan, or the white man, is to rule for 6,000 years. All of the millions and trillions of years before the start of the 6,000-year reign of Satan, before then, all them trillions and all those millions, black people were the only people on this planet. Now that's a long time before we start that 6,000-year epoch. That means that this people that we're talking about has only been on this planet for a little bit compared to 66 trillion and 78 trillion. They're like less than babies. They're like embryos on this planet compared to how long we've been here. Matter of fact, they're like the blood clot when the sperm hit the egg as far as how long they've been here. They ain't hardly been here. But yet they caused all this havoc and all this hell. And so we said that not only did we come with the earth, we were even before the earth. The beginning of the 6,000-year reign of Satan was the beginning of the fall of black people. Now in Toma, we have what we call prescribed readings. And these prescribed readings, they help us in our teaching and in our studying to make sure that we give a well-rounded view of the things that are happening in the world, in our lives. And one of those books was or is Black Root Science. We've been saying a lot from this book lately. I want you to know that the person who wrote Black Root Science kind of fit in a pattern that a lot of us have that are great readers who love reading and who are searching for knowledge. And a lot of what he teaches goes along with Toma being an all-inclusive, black conscious, righteous movement. And so we don't come under what you may call religion, but we do study all of the religions. And so we do it so we can have a well-rounded knowledge of truly who we are, whose we are, where we come from, and why. I'm gonna leave it just like that. And why. The only way you're gonna know why is to study the minds of those who are connected or hooked into that vibration where truth lives, and then you can draw from it and get the picture that you need to have in your mind to show you where we are, whose we are, and why. Now, I want to read a little bit. Put on your thinking caps, you all. This is for your third eye only. I'm going to read a little something again just to show you that the stuff we're reading in this Bible, it's okay, but I'm letting you know it's dealing with 6,000 years. All right? And when you deal with the Quran, you're dealing with 1,400 years inside of that 6,000. You're dealing with 1,400 years of the 6,000. So you're still in 6,000. All right? Our Earth and solar system were created 78 trillion years ago. As soon as the Earth was ready, 144,000 ancestors came from another star system, the star called Sirius. that was worshipped by the ancient Kemites. They inhabited the earth after preparing it by seeding it with plant and animal life. After about 7,000 years since their arrival, their population increased from 144,000 to 1,008,000,000. Now, why am I bringing this to you? Because I'm going to talk to you about Mary and Jesus. But I need us to understand who we are, where we are. I said that before the Caucasian came into being, we were the only people on this planet. There were no non-blacks on this planet before the beginning of that 6,000 year period. So you got people like Mary and Jesus being born into this world during and under that 6,000 year era, where we didn't need messengers or prophets before then to be reminded of where we fell from. So that's beginning to show you why. But other reasons, one, once you hear this story of Mary and the story of Jesus, you're looking at two holy people of God, Mary and Jesus. And we know that Mary was black. We know that Jesus was black. And so God in his infinite wisdom blessed both of them, knowing that today some wicked cracker would be trying to separate the black family and trying to say that this woman is greater than this one, and this man is greater than that, and he's lesser, he's more. And so he blessed both, the male and the female, to do this job. Just like he knew that somewhere this enemy was going to try to change the definition of what makes up a family. And so through Usa and Aset and Heru, he started the Trinity, knowing that mother, father, and child is the basic prescription, I would call it, or the basic foundation of government and the basic foundation of family. So we got to go back to go forward. We got to go back to go forward, Sankofa. So let's talk about blacks. And some people say we just too black. But I love that. Thank you. The matter of every star and planet in the universe is created in 7 forms. In modern words, these are magnetism, electricity, light, ether, gases, liquids, and solids. The 4th substance, ether, is the central supporting substance of the other 6. Now, I call it the dark matter of space. He calls it ether, all right? So, ether is the central supporting substance of the other 6. It is the womb of creation called space. It is black in color, as one can see by looking out into space at night. This absolute blackness called space not only supports the other substance, but it also gives individual color to all objects, because the color black contains all other colors in itself. Hence, when the 1,008,000,000 original gods made themselves new bodies, they covered them in skin whose color is black, getting it directly from the dark matter in space. Because the gods create all plants and animals from their own bodies, they need to have all colors stored in a single color in their creative germ, which is called the dark dominant germ or gene, the source of what modern people call melanin. Keep your pineal gland caps on. Upon arriving on the first earth, that one mind, the one mind of God, incarnated instantly in 1,008,000,000 bodies, as already said. Half of them, all right, were female and the other half were male. Each pair of male-female gods are called soulmates. They always create in soulmate pairs, even when in large groups, because all creation has a male, female, or negative positive principle. Negative is not used in a derogatory state, but as the complement of the positive. The 1,000,000,008,000,000 original people then proceeded to instantly create perfect plants and animals, called the original totems, from which all evolutionary life forms evolved. They also proceeded to create new stars and planets around the first earth by condensing part of their expanded mind. After living on that first earth for more than 1,000,000,000,000 years, the first 1,000,000,000,000 years, they finalized the plans for the completion of a new, much larger universe. Then they gave birth to their descendants and then passed out of life, which means they ascended. And before passing, they established the Society of the Black Nation. Why am I reading this? I told you how long we were here. I told you we were created from dark matter in space. I told you we were part of the great mind of who you call God. But all the collective minds being one great mind, we call it the divine great mind, the Ansof, the great mind. And that one great mind continues to give all of its essence and substance to you and I. So now that we know that, I'm saying that Jesus and Mary serves as a sign of who we are and why we are. Why did the Creator choose them within that 6,000 year time span? 6,000 years, y'all, I'm talking about. I don't care what the world want to say. Wasn't no Jesus before then. Wasn't no Mary before then. And ain't none of you all alive today who don't live to be over 100 half the time can talk to me and challenge me over some kind of 6,000 years. You ain't even been here 1,000 of them. So follow me. So now, let's look at this. Jeremiah 10 talks about a holiday or a practice that we have that we don't want to let go of. The second verse says, follow not the ways of the heathen. Now we in this 6,000 years now. We ain't in before the 6,000. Follow not the ways of the heathen. A heathen is a non-religious pagan who doesn't acknowledge the God of the Bible, the God of the Quran, or the Torah. So a pagan is also considered to be one who has no religion and indulges in worldly delights and material possessions. Toma has one religion. The Toma nation has one religion, and that is obey God. Can I hear y'all say that with me? Obey God.
Obey God.
One more time. Obey God.
Obey God.
That's our religion. Obeying the great mind. Obeying the all. Submitting to that understanding. And giving our life standing on that understanding that there's only one God, one creative mind, one great mind who loaned us a part and a portion of its mind. And when you expire from this body, that part goes back to its mind. So now, why are we celebrating, or who are we celebrating on December 25th then? It turns out that Nimrod is who we were celebrating on the 21st. And they called him one who did not believe in God. He came to disrupt and move people away from who the true God was. No matter what you want to call religion, we've always submitted to the essence of this one great mind that it did exist, and it still does. And so he was born on December 25th, y'all. Nimrod was, all right? And he worked hard to break the civilization of Moses, 17 centuries after Moses and 3 centuries before the birth of Yashua. Nimrod is responsible for making the law of Moses of non-effect. All right? Nimrod had a strange incestuous relationship with his mother. In fact, he married his own mother. All right? Semiramis. I think that's how you say the name, right? Nimrod and his mother rebelled against God their entire life. Though after Nimrod's death in 216 before Christ, Semiramis promoted the belief that he, Nimrod, was a god. Well, he was a black man, y'all know that, right? So he was God, Nimrod. See, you got a lot of rebellious black people. Yaqub was a rebellious black man. Nimrod was a rebellious black man. And if you keep going, you'll find a lot of black people who are rebellious. Just because you are the apple of God's eye or you are the chosen, you see, you still are human and you're going to make human mistakes. But if you don't want to repent and you want to just get arrogant about it and become more arrogant about it, then you no longer reflect the one that made you. You begin to reflect his alter ego, which happens to be the satanic influence. So now, Semiramis promoted the belief that Nimrod was God. She claimed that a full-grown evergreen tree sprang out of the roots of a dead tree stump, symbolizing the springing forth of a new life for Nimrod, her lover son. On the anniversary of his birth, she said Nimrod would visit the evergreen the Roman emperor from 306 after the death of Christ to 337 after the death of Christ. He was a well-known pagan and the very first one to convert to Christianity. He didn't want to completely give up his pagan practices, of course, so he mixed in with the teachings of Yashua much of his own pagan rituals and customs. All of this took place at the Council of Nicene, 325 AD. Also, brothers and sisters, at that council was where he placed Easter and the bunny rabbit with the so-called death of Jesus. And most of these pagan holidays are connected to something spiritual, because you all probably didn't know that Halloween is also All Saints Day. All Saints Day. All this because of Constantine putting them both together, including moving the worship of God on the same day as their worship of a sun god, placing it on a Sunday. Oh yeah, these wicked devils did all of that. So I thought I'd bring that up. And you can read about this Christmas tree, brothers and sisters, the return of the Bible Spirit. The one that the law of Moses of non-effect, right? Nimrod had a strange incestuous relationship with his mother. In fact, he married his own mother, all right? Semiramis, I think that's how you say the name, right? Nimrod and his mother rebelled against God their entire life. Though after Nimrod's death and the Lord, pious and faultless before men. For they divided all their substances into three parts, showing you that they had developed a certain kind of devotion to making sure that they don't upset the flow that God had set for them to live by. One of which they divided the temple. This is how they divided their substance. They proportioned to the temple and the offices of the temple. Another they distributed among strangers and persons in poor circumstances. The third way they reserved for themselves and the use of their own family. There's a lot of things in masonry and in other things where it says, do this and that and save yourself for last. That's what this is about. This is like what you giving out. Cast your bread among the waters, many days in return. That, brothers and sisters, is your survival technique. That if you're giving and saving yourself for last, then you'll always follow that pattern that God says, I never seen my righteous forsaken or his seed begging bread. Why? Because you took care of those three parts that's supposed to be done in your whole entire life. In your whole life. In this manner, they lived for about 20 years, chastely in the favor of God and the esteem of men. They lived like that without any children. But they vowed if God should favor them with any issue, they were devoted to the service of the Lord, on which account they went at every feast in the year to the temple of the Lord. When it came to pass that when the feast of the dedication drew near, Joachim, that's the father, with some others of his tribe, went up to Jerusalem. And at that time, Issachar was the high priest, who when he saw Joachim, along with the rest of his neighbors, bringing his offering, he despised both him and his offering. This is the high priest, y'all. Somebody coming to give their offering, and he despised Joachim and despised his offering and asked him why he who had no children would presume to appear among those who had, adding that his offering could never be accepted to God, who was judged by him unworthy to have children. The scripture having said, cursed is everyone who shall not beget a male in Israel. See, this is part of what we call the doctrines of man and not God. And these church people pushed that. And that's why when Yashua came on the scene, he went against the church and he went against their doctrines because they caused a lot of havoc in people's families, just like the white man do today. Caused a lot of division and a lot of dissension between husband and wife. See, and so now the townspeople saying something like that because the reason that was set like that was because the astrologers of his day and time and the astronomers of their day and time talked about and and boasted about a Christ child being born among that group in Jerusalem, in Nazareth, and all the surrounding places. There was a Christ child, a person who would be after God's own heart, a savior even, being given to us. And so at that time, sex was at an all-time high because they wanted to have that Christ child. They rumored that it would be a male because males at that time, they ain't like today, males were and still should be the dominant force in any society. And so everybody's mother or every woman wanted this Christ child. That's what they wanted. And they were looking for a male. Ooh, how happy they would have been. And so here's what happened. He had no children. So he further said, this is the priest. He further said that he ought first to be free from that curse by begetting some issue, and then come with his offering into the presence of God. Say, you need to go and figure out who cursed you before you come back. But Joachim, being much confounded with the shame of such reproach, retired to the shepherds who were with the cattle in their pastures. He couldn't even go face his friends no more. The man bust him out in front of everybody, saying what he said. For he was not inclined to return home, lest his neighbors who were present and heard all this from the high priest should publicly reproach him in the same manner. But when he had been there among the shepherds for some time, on a certain day when he was alone, the angel of the Lord stood by him with a prodigious light, to whom, being troubled at the appearance, the angel who had appeared to him, endeavoring to compose him, said to him, be not afraid, Joachim, nor troubled at the sight of me, for I am an angel of the Lord sent by him to you, that I might inform you that your prayers are heard and your alms ascended in the sight of God. Brothers and sisters, he came from this vehicle and appeared to Joachim. He was the Lord. No, he said he was sent by the Lord. He was called Gabriel or Gabriel, one of the soldiers of Allah or God or whoever you want to call them. So we're going to stop this angels with chicken wings and yellow hair and a dress that can ascend and come down and the dress don't come up. We're not going to be caught up in that. We're coming up out of that. We know that both Bible and Quran gives history. Both Bible and Quran gives history of other beings in men's affairs, being a part of it. And you should know that because they're still seeing sightings. But we need to know why. Let me finish this though. So he told him, don't be afraid. He said, the Lord has seen your shame and heard you unjustly be reproached for not having children. For God is the avenger of sin and not of nature. So when he shuts the womb of any person, he does it for this reason, that he may in a more wonderful manner again open it, and that which is born appear to be not the product of lust, but the gift of God. For the first mother of your nation, Sarah, was she not barren even till her 80th year? At 80, y'all. All right? To her 80th year, and yet, even in the end of her old age, brought forth Isaac, in whom the promise was made a blessing to all nations. Rachel also, so in favor with God and beloved so much by holy Jacob, continued barren for a long time, yet afterwards she was the mother of Joseph, who was not only governor of Egypt, but delivered many nations from perishing with hunger. Who among the judges was more valiant than Samson, or more holy than Samuel? And yet both their mothers were barren. See, a lot of y'all don't know that. Y'all keep thinking this was just Mary. We talking before Mary. This type of conception didn't just happen with Mary, but yet she was still special. But I want you all to know the truth that God is in the business of making these things happen. That's why we say all praises to him. That's why I say we submit our will to do his will. That's why he tells us be patient. Be patient. Exercise patience because he knows what he's doing. You may not know, but be patient. That time when Sarah was supposed to become pregnant and those three people appeared to Abraham and they said one was the Lord. When she heard that that was that time, she laughed. And the name Isaac means laughter. She laughed like, yeah, right. I done heard that before. A couple of times. I'm 89. Like the 100-year-old lady that was walking around and it was windy outside and she was holding her wig. And her dress was flying up. And the little boy said, lady, you showing all your parts, you know, that down. She said, don't you worry about that, young man. That down there is 100 years old. This is a brand new wig.
Really?
I just thought I'd share that with you. I'll tell a little joke here and there. So anyway, bringing it up to date. It's showing you that this is a pattern. Most times in the life of when God is bringing forth a special child who was given an assignment and a mission before his time, before her time. We all running from our mission and we in our 20s and 30s. But yet somebody like Jeremiah was 17 when he started his mission. And here comes Mary at 12. See, but yet on the level of our Black nationalists, they starting in like 17 and 20 and 21. But we got people today making excuses at 25 and 30 and 40. What kind of excuse do you think is going to be acceptable to God who placed you here and showing you the past and how he worked things out? But yet today in the present, you got an excuse. You procrastinate. Oh no, God ain't gonna like that, and he don't like that. But if reason will not convince you of the truth of my words, this is what this angel, this being was telling. If reason won't convince you of the truth of my words, that there are frequent conceptions in advanced years, and that those who were barren have brought forth. Therefore, Anna, your wife, shall bring you a daughter, and you shall call her name Mary. She shall, according to your vow. Look at that. This man had to make a vow. So did the other men. So did Zechariah, the father. They had to make a vow. He only just on the woman. Said, you be devoted to the Lord. All right. According to your vow, she shall, according to your vow, this child shall be devoted to the Lord from her infancy and be filled with the Holy Ghost from her mother's womb. Son of the Most High God, who shall be called Yashua. And according to the signification of his name, be the Savior of all nations. And this shall be a sign to you of the things which I declare. Namely, when you come to the golden gate of Jerusalem, you shall there meet your wife Anna, who being very much troubled that you return no sooner, shall then rejoice to see you. Now, I don't know if they said this in here, but at a certain point in time, he became deaf, mute rather, couldn't talk. He wasn't supposed to say nothing. Whatever this angel told him, he couldn't repeat it. Shut up. But you know what's going to happen now. Just believe me. Now, this being could have been in person or could have came in the form of a vision or a dream. But yet, while he was sitting, laying among those sheep, hanging with the shepherds, he received this. And so when the angel said it, he departed from him. Now check this out. It shifted over, showing you how fast they can move. Afterwards, the angel appeared to Anna, his wife, said, "Fear not, neither think that what you see is a spirit." So that confirmed that, didn't it? Say, ain't no spirit. You got to know the difference. You got to be a discerner of spirits and things, because the one can be beamed down in your presence and be human. They can be beamed down outside your door in your yard and come and knock on your door, just so you won't be frightened. They can know your path and where you're going and be sitting in the restaurant when you come in. Oh, yeah. Because they read your mind. They speak to us telepathically like they spoke to Abraham and Moses. Well, Moses met them face to face. So you don't know. It says, be careful how you treat strangers, because you might be entertaining angels unaware. Y'all heard it, boy. I see y'all be in your scripture. Thank you, boy. I heard it come out of 3 mouths at the same time. That's beautiful. So he says, fear not, neither think that which you see is a spirit. For I am that angel who has offered up your prayers and alms before God. See, I told you these beings take your prayers. See, and then they bring it before the person that's in charge of all of them. This is like a protocol or a military unit that's set up. And they don't just make these decisions. They bring it to their boss. And then their boss make the decision on how we going to deal with this prayer. And he said, I offered your prayer and your alms before God. This ain't the great mind now. And I'm now sent to you that I may inform you that a daughter will be born unto you, who shall be called Mary, and shall be blessed above all women. She shall be immediately upon her birth, full of grace of the Lord, and shall continue during the 3 years of her weaning in her father's house, first 3 years at home, and afterwards, being devoted to the service of the Lord, shall not depart from the temple till she arrives to years of discretion. In a word, she shall there serve the Lord night and day in fasting and prayer, shall abstain from every unclean thing, and never know any man. That means she's going to remain a virgin until that time to give her that insemination that she's going to receive. the essence of the eternal divine spirit. Or the creative mind, or creative stuff, period. That he can show you what to do because he know that he don't want to make that decision himself. He don't want to feel guilty that he made the decision. He want a higher authority to intervene so that when he make that decision, he don't feel guilty. Because the people might try to make him feel guilty, but he don't have to feel guilty because he know it came from on high. It came through the pineal gland. It came from the dark matter in your subconscious mind in the back of your head. It came from there, which represents space, the whole space out there, the whole universe. And that eye that's facing that area, it has a retina attached to it, but it's facing the cerebrum, or whatever y'all call this, cerebellum. And so it helps when you're dealing with your subconscious mind. So he taps back into the universe. He taps back into space through prayer in order to get a message on high. Tapping back into the great mind who loaned him a part of that mind to become one with it, to make the proper decision so that all that happened after that is what we read about today. Wouldn't be so if he would have just took it upon himself. Peace, peace, Brother Adverb. And so he went to pray. And behold, when he prayed, an angel, another being, even Zechariah met these beings, came to him and said, Zechariah. Zechariah said his name twice. Go forth, call together all of the widowers among the people, showing you that everybody he called were once married. They were widowers. Because the first group that were in the palace, they couldn't come up with what to do. So Zechariah went and prayed, and God said, sometimes you got to step outside of your circle to do what got to get done. Because in the circle, they don't have the answer. And so this angel told him, step outside the circle. Go get a bunch of widows, men with experience, and bring them in. Let's see what we're going to do with Mary. And so said, let every one of them bring his rod, and he by whom the Lord shall show a sign shall be the husband of Mary. And the criers went throughout all of Judea, and the trumpet of the Lord sounded, and all the people ran and met together. Joseph, throwing away his hatchet, he was working, went out to meet them, and when they were met, they went to the high priest, all of them. See, a lot of people say they drew straws, and here they say it was a rod. But some kind of way, they used something to show how they were going to pick which one of those widows was going to take Mary to themselves, but not have sex with her, but watch over her, because she was 12. So after the high priest received their rods, he went into the temple to pray again. And when he finished his prayer, he took the rods and went forth and distributed them. And there was no miracle. There was no miracle about this, he said. He said the last rod was taken by Joseph. And behold, a dove proceeded out of the rod and flew upon the head of Joseph. And the high priest said, Joseph, you're the person chosen to take the virgin of the Lord, to keep her. Now check this out. For him, not for Joseph. Did y'all hear that? For him, not for Joseph. Don't you know when Eve was formed in that garden, he was supposed to watch over her. Adam was supposed to watch over her and protect her womb for him. Y'all didn't know that. See, it was after that was to take place, then he could have her. It was after Mary conceived Yashua, then Joseph could do that. It was after the Lord would have artificially inseminated Eve that Adam then could have had her. Why was he trying to artificially inseminate her? Well, we'll go there later. Ask me at the end. So now, the high priest said to Joseph, keep her. But what happened? Joseph refused, saying, I'm an old man. I got children. Y'all didn't know it, but Joseph had 6 children at the time. And John, one of his disciples, was his half-brother. One of the disciples was John's half-brother, Joseph's son. Not born from Mary, but from Joseph. And he walked with Jesus. Not John the Baptist, because John the Baptist was his rightful cousin by blood. But this other John that's responsible for Revelation and the book of John was Jesus' half-brother. So now, he said, I'm an old man, I got children, and she young. And I fear lest I should appear ridiculous in Israel. Said, I'm walking around with this 12-year-old girl. I done had 6 kids, and I'm a widow. Let me walking around among the people. Talking about this is my wife. And she's 12 years old. No, I can't. No, sorry. Let's draw straws again. So the high priest said, Joseph, fear the Lord your God. And remember how God dealt with Dathan, Korah, and Abram. How the earth opened up and swallowed them up because of their contradiction. See, this happened during the time of Moses. I saw a hand go up. I don't know how much time he was saying. But y'all let me know now. He says, so therefore, Joseph, fear God, not the stuff that's going to happen to you with your friends and neighbors. He said, you fear God, lest the like things should happen in your family. Joseph, then being afraid, took her to his house, and Joseph said to Mary, behold, I have taken you from the temple of the Lord, and now I'll leave you in my house. I must go to mind my trade of building. He was a carpenter. Said, now may the Lord be with you. Now, check this out. During that time, she at home by herself. When he comes back, she's 6 months pregnant. He was gone for 6 months on one of those jobs, like a truck driver who might have to go cross country and come back maybe 6 months later or a month later. He doing this work. Meanwhile, he come back, she pregnant. See, another lecture I gave a long time ago was Jesus and his mother serves as a sign. And what is that sign? When you look at how Jesus came about and the conditions that they were under, that is the sign that tells you where the next Christ child will come from. Bethlehem was a ghetto. There was no room in the inn. It was a weekend. All the hotels were full. He was born in a manger with some cows breathing over him so he can stay warm in a place that's not conducive to having a child. Don't we know something about that? Don't we know in our ghetto some people who had children at the bottom of the steps, in a cab, on the expressway, in the backyard, in the bathroom. a place that's not conducive for childbirth. Don't that sound like the ghettos here? Don't that sound like the inner cities of Black America? Don't that sound like here's a baby born and it ain't the daddy's? Come on, y'all. He's trying to show you where the Christ child comes from and what kind of conditions creates him. Are you looking for the perfect condition? I know sometimes we do. We're looking for the right thing. No. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. You would think Jesus would want a Beyonce. Mm-hmm. No, Jesus picked up the one who they was about to stone to death. Say, come on. Anybody want to be like Jesus now? So here's what happened now. That when Joseph came back, she had became pregnant. Let's see what happened. And it came to pass in the council of priests, it was said, let us make a new veil for our temple. And the high priest said, come together, bring together me 7 undefiled virgins from the tribe of David. And all the servants went out and brought them into the temple of the Lord. And the high priest said to them, cast lots before me right now. Who of you shall spin the golden thread? Who shall spin the blue? Who shall spin the scarlet? Who the fine linen and who the true purple? Then the high priest knew Mary, that she was of the tribe of David, and he called her, and the true purple fell to her lot to spin. And she went away to her own home. Purple, the violet flame. Purple. Anything that's under the violet flame, if it's not righteous, burns up. Then they even talking about the color purple. Purple, the 6th level of the chakra. Moving into the pineal gland. The 3rd eye. Why did she get that one? She's a woman. They don't get this to women. Women ain't supposed to be that deep. Women ain't supposed to be priests. Women ain't supposed to be pastors. Women ain't supposed. Wait a minute here. We ain't got on Jesus yet. We talking about Mary. I'm trying to show you. When you look at Mary, and you look at Mary's mother, and you look at Yashua, you look at his mother, there's always a woman present. God bless women too. And don't let this white man who is trying to separate Black men and Black women from each other, bring it back together in the knowledge that God was with Mary, a female, and God was also with Jesus. And we are the children of God. Stop going by those people who came from the land of Nod, not God. I know you're going to bite that and put it in your, well, you know, that's okay though, you can. So did Almond Ra. So did Cassius D. So did the others. They came sitting here too and went back riding black ice years ago. Anyway, so the purple one rested with her and she went home. And she took a pot one day and went out to draw some water. Okay, I got to do it fast. Y'all know the story of Jesus, so if I missed that one, y'all can get the rest of that on a Saturday or read your Bible. So she took a pot and went out to draw water, and she heard a voice saying, "Hail, you who are full of grace, the Lord is with you. You're blessed among women." And she looked around to the right and to the left to see from where the voice came, and then, trembling, she ran in the house. And laying down the water pot, she took the purple, sat down, and began to work on it. Now, in between this angel appeared again and said, "Fear not, Mary, for you found favor in the sight of the Lord." And when she heard it, she reasoned within herself what that sort of greeting meant. And the angel said to her, the Lord is with you, and you shall conceive. To which she replied, what shall I conceive by the living God and bring forth as all other women do? Now you all can read in the Holy Quran, Surah 19, verse 16 to 21, that surah is called Mary. All right. Now remember, she at home. And some man in her backyard peeping through her window, watching as she spin this yarn or whatever it was, thread. Came to get some water, and he said something. You know how some guys do to try to get the women, they do this part of their courting and, you know, trying to get her to know, you know, playing game. Now, a lot of people say, but wait, this is an immaculate conception. Yes, it is. It was immaculate from the start because the mother couldn't have a child, her mother. And so now the Holy Quran says when she asked God, or not really God, but that angel, how can I have a child when I've never known a man? And then the Elohim, the God family responded, speak, said, it's easy. Don't worry about it, he said. We got this. And it says in the Holy Quran, we sent to her our spirit in the form of a well-made man. But you don't want to read the Quran. You like hocus pocus. You like this thought of some ghost came over her and had sex with her. You like this little fairy tale story about angels with chicken wings and yellow hair and dresses. You love that story. You don't want to let go the description that the white man gave you. You want to stay in the dark, and that's why you can't be God, because God don't play with fairy tales. God deal with truth. Wake up, black man. Wake up, black woman. I got 6 minutes. So now, when he heard it, she reasoned with herself. I read that part. So it says, well, this is the Quran part. I think I said this already. I sure did, so I'm not going to go there. I read that part of the scripture. She said, so I seek refuge from you, most gracious, if thou doest fear God. And he said, I'm only a messenger from the Lord to announce this to thee, the gift of a holy child. So all that's dealing with when he came into the, back to the lost books. The angel replied, not so, Mary. The Holy Spirit shall come upon you. The power of the Most High shall overshadow you. Therefore, that which shall be born of you shall be holy. So could it be that the Creator could place his spirit in a man that she didn't know, that knocked her off her feet with all that good old talk, and he had sex with her, and she felt comfortable with him. And then she became pregnant. But now 6 months later, her husband comes home. And even in the Bible, it said he was embarrassed that she was pregnant. He was angry, and he went in his room to think and said, how can I get rid of her without them noticing that I got rid of her? How can I put her away privately, it says. I can't walk around now. It was already embarrassing. I'm walking around with a 12-year-old. Might call me a pedophile. Now she walk around pregnant, and they know I was gone. They know I was gone for 6 months. So I ain't got to say nothing. They already know she done did something with somebody while I was gone. I'm mad. And then we know that again an angel appeared and said, hey, hold back, Jim Shoe. Y'all didn't know they talk like that. Talk 2020, that kind of thing. And he said, don't you dare kill your wife.
Pump your brakes.
Pump your brakes. We got this. We did it. Back up. And he said, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'll be the stepfather. Does that sound like someone like us? Stepfathers? And so, and here it says, and when her 6 month was come, Joseph returned from his building houses abroad, which was his trade, entered into the house, found the virgin grown big. Then smiting upon his face, he said, with what face can I look up to the Lord my God? Or what shall I say concerning this young woman? For I received her a virgin from the temple of the Lord, and have not preserved her such. Who has thus deceived me? He said he was supposed to preserve her. Again, he was supposed to watch her, protect her womb, just like Adam was supposed to with Eve, just like Abraham did with Sarah, on and on and on throughout. This is how that happens. Y'all excuse me for sniffing, but I ain't got no tissue, so y'all gotta hear some sniffing. I'll be so real on this podium. Y'all ain't gonna find a more real minister than me. No place. And I don't care. Now, anyway, who has deceived me? Who committed this evil in my house? Seduced my virgin from me? Has defiled her? Then he went right here to what I was saying. It's not the history of Adam exactly being accomplished in me. Did you hear what he said? For in the very instant of his glory, the serpent came, found Eve alone, and seduced her. And now after the same manner, it happens to me. Then Joseph, rising from the ground, called her and said, O you who have been so much favored by God, why have you done this? Why have you thus so favored by God done this? Why have you debased your soul, who are educated in the Holy of Holies, received your food from the hand of angels? But she, with a flood of tears, replied, I'm innocent. I'm innocent. I know my time is almost up. I'm acting, boy. I can get an Academy Award. Is that what you get? Y'all know I can. Nobel Peace Prize. That ain't got nothing to do with what I'm doing up here. Somebody in my audience done took me all the way out of my little thing, you know. Anyway, so she was raised by a stepfather. He didn't kill her. Now I'm gonna go away from this real quick. I'll read some more Wednesday. So you all come to 616 East 71st Street to hear the rest of this on that day. Now, let me say this quickly. We know the rest of the story. We know that when she had the child, she went, another spirit came to her and told her to leave and go to Egypt because they were going to kill every child 2 years old and under. So Joseph, being of a devout person, took her to Egypt. They stayed in Egypt where Yashua learned all the mysteries of ancient Kemet for 10 years. When he came back with his parents, he was 12 years old. They was doing the census. And they knew that if that child was still alive at 12 and they killed every child from 2 years old and under, we caught him. We gonna kill him. Y'all wonder why I don't do the census, why I tell y'all not to as Black people? Because they was doing it even back then, looking for the Christ child through a census. Don't be fooled. White man ain't got no new tricks. The white man doing the same old stuff since before the world. Well, he wasn't even here then. Within the 6,000 years. And so, y'all know the rest of the story. Y'all know about the 3 wise men who the king tried to trick. They say, oh, when you find this child, let me know so I can come and bless him. And then even they telepathically was told, don't go back that way. Keep going. And they left, and then the king got mad and said, look, kill every child 2 years old and under. That was a birth control method, y'all. That was birth control. Same way today they use birth control. When I was coming up and I was born in 1957, I was told years later that during that time, every male child that was black that was being born and they didn't have no mirrors and stuff where you could see it, the doctor was supposed to put this thin needle into the center of their head and kill them and tell that woman her child was born dead, stillborn. Thank you. This was given to the doctors to do back then in the 50s. Isn't that deep? So I'm showing you that they don't change. They use the same techniques. This is why we can clock whatever they're going to do next, because they don't have nothing else to do. Y'all need to know that. So now you understand what this is about. Mary and his mother serves as a sign. Why were they sent here? Why were they sent to us? Because during this 6,000 year period, we've fallen so far away from the truth and from our God that every once in a while the Creator have to send someone in among you, like he said in the Bible, among you, Moses, from among you, so that that person can bring you this type of information to help you get back on the path to your evolution from human being to supreme being. Thank you for listening. God bless you. God keep you. Peace. Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Habaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. This is the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. In the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent, the one who directs the sunships of millions and trillions of years, the one who made time to see to the universe, known among the ancient Kemites or Egyptians as Amun-Ra and Aten, among the Hebrews as Ansaf, Yahweh, Elohim, among the Christians as Lord, God, and Jehovah, among the Muslims as Allah, the one God, among the Rastafarians as Jah, Rastafari, among the Yoruba tribe is Olodumare, Obatala, and many other Orisha gods. But I bear witness that all of those names refer to the same one, Almighty Creator. And it is to that essence to whom I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the children of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, is that lost 13th tribe, born here in North America, and that we are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of the nations of the world flow through our veins. I greet you all in the ancient but yet holy words of peace, in the languages of our fathers of Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Habaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. All greeting words and salutations of peace in the many different languages of our fathers. I greet you in peace. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Toma Nation Warship service. That is spelled W-A-R-S-H-I-P. And you've heard and you've seen our intro. You've heard from our announcer, Sister Ebony. And the title of this lecture is called, well, it's called Judicry. And I will explain why in a little bit. But I am Brother Minister Rahim along with the co-founder of this movement, as you saw in the opening, Brother Minister Omari, Jahi Aten, and the First Lady of this movement, Sister Makita Aisha Aten. And the Temple of Mercy Association has been around since 1990. And we've been through our trials, our tribulations, and ups and downs that mostly everyone in every movement go through. But yet, we survive. And we are surviving. Amen. To move forward with what God has given us to do, which is our part in the uplifting of Black people here in the hellholes of North America. Judicus. It's a word that was coined by me early this morning. And it's a combination of being a Judas and being a hypocrite. They kind of go hand in hand. And during the month of January, it bleeds all the way into February, knowing that we have what you call our prescribed readings. Normally during this month, we talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We speak on Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and give or take every once in a while, we speak on Noble Drew Ali. And the area that I usually focus on usually deals with those in his movement that betrayed him. And if you go back in the past to any lectures that you've heard during the month of January, you will see that it centered around hypocrisy and Judaism. I shouldn't say it that way. Let me see it right. Judaism, because somebody will get me on that one. I don't want to say that. But I have said many times, and I'm going to read a little bit before I really get to talking, because you know I'll talk for a minute and don't read nothing. But many times you've heard me say that this world through social media was erasing the notion or even the thought of the idea of a Messiah or a messenger or a savior being born into this world to deliver a people. They are erasing that in social media, and they're redefining for us who and what the churches or synagogues or temples should be viewed as, which means if they view those entities as a business, then they are viewing the ministers or priests or imams as businessmen. Let's be it. You know, is that correct? So if they're saying with their mouth that being in a religion or having a church or being a minister is big business, then they'll call it but a businessman. So if they successfully remove that light, then the next group they would have to deal with would be the nationalists. Because anything that looks like it's a threat to what they have established, they have to work hard to get rid of it. Now, at one time, all they had to deal with was radio and TV and newspapers. And so they controlled that pretty good. But they don't have as much of a control over social media as they would want to, because it still gets out some kind of way or another through TikTok or something. Some of these truths, they still come out. And they have to get rid of the notion of a person being a nationalist. And in order to do that and erase that, they got to make any nationalist or any group that don't agree with the policies of America, they have to make them become terrorists or any negative thing that they can. Now, I don't want us to forget that the government itself in 1832, a speech given by a senator, Henry Berry. And in that speech at the House of Burgesses in Virginia, he said, "We have as far as possible closed every avenue by which the light may enter the slave's mind." So erase that notion of religious people or men of God coming into the world. Erase that notion of a savior. Erase that notion of a messenger, and then all hope is lost. Then you build all your hope on what they say the future of the planet is, or what they say the future of man and mankind is. We have to follow what they say. And so they said that if we could extinguish his capacity to see the light, then our work would be complete. Then he would be on the level with the beast of the field, and we should be safe. Now, I want all of you scholars who are Google scholars to look on Google as to when I say what I'm about to say. Around 1832, and a little bit before this was said, there was a situation that happened in America which they would consider an uprising. And it was a guy who I call the Messiah of that day and time. He was anointed. His name was Nat Turner. And Nat Turner, he put out a reign of terror throughout that entire state, to the fact that the word boogeyman was coined by white people based on him, because he went from plantation to plantation. And he didn't just tell the slaves, "Come on, follow me, we're free," but he killed the slave master and his children and his wife and cousins and nephews and niece, whoever happened to be in the house at that time. And it got to the point, because they couldn't catch him, that the children got wind of it. And they became afraid and frightened that they couldn't sleep at night. So in the villages and in the towns, they slept with their lights on. And the children, they asked their parents, "Don't leave them in the room by themselves, because the boogeyman would get them." They were terrified of Dr. Nat Turner. I give him any title I want to. Power to define. Black power means the power to define and develop and defend that which is in the best interest of Black people. And so they saw that happening, and they knew that that would wake up a lot of other slaves if he wasn't caught. But lo and behold, there was a Judas. Lo and behold, there was a hypocrite. And I'm going to tell you what a hypocrite is in a minute. And it was during the time where most of his people had been captured that were with him, and he went into hiding in the forest, in the woods. No one could find him, but he had one person that he trusted, usually the one, I hate to say it, usually, but not always, the one that's around you the most, the ones that's the closest to you all the time. Once the enemy find out who he is, they have already said in their heart that every person has a price. And so this was the man that was coming to see Nat Turner to make sure that he ate. This man's wife was fixing the food for Nat Turner. And the guy was bringing the food to him. This was the guy that was bringing him back information on what the people were saying about him. But yet this was the same guy that turned him in for a nice price. You know, that's what Judas did to the Messiah, the anointed one, for a good price. I guess 30 pieces of silver was a lot of money back then. Today a link card will suffice. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. Give a person, increase their link, they'll tell. Am I right? I had to go there low. You know me, I'm going to go low. I ain't going to hit high, I'm going to hit low because I want our brothers and sisters to understand the degree of what I'm saying when I talk about a Judas or a hypocrite. So I'm going to deal with it on the level of where we coming from in the ghettos of North America. A fifth of wild Irish rose would do. If all he could afford was a half a pint for 3 or 4 years, a fifth would get it. A fifth of wild Irish rose would get him to shoot somebody. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. He said if we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. So when they caught Nat Turner and they hung him and then they tarred and feathered him and cooked him in a pot, said then he, talking about the slave, would be on the level with the beast of the field and we should be safe. At that time, they wasn't allowed to read, so they kept that light from the black man or the slave. But then later on, a free black man named David Walker. Y'all need to look this up, Mr. and Mrs. Google scientists. David Walker, a free black man, all right, decided that, because see, at that time, you still had people as slaves and you had some that was free. David Walker said he wanted to free a few slaves. I mean, he came up and he was born into a family that was already free. So he started having secret meetings with some of the freed slaves and saying what we gonna do in order to save some of our brothers that's still over there, brothers and sisters that's still slaves. Lo and behold, that was a Judas among them who said that he's about to mess up some opportunities that we have fought hard to get to be in our free position right now. I can't let him do that. We worked too hard to get to this point. And him and some others was whispering on the side saying, what we gonna do? And they went and told on him the day before they was gonna make the move. And they arrested everybody, got rid of David Walker. David Walker wrote something called an appeal. This is when they was taking him to court. Look it up in your thing. It says David Walker's appeal. That's right. And boy, is it powerful. I would pray that somebody would read it one day on the podium so it can be out there and you'll know what it's about. But those two people is what prompted this man, Senator Henry Berry, to say what he said, because there wasn't no others out at the time. Just like they got rid of our leaders, they got rid of the main two, the slave and the freed one. And now they said, we'll be safe. And they will be on the level with the beast of the field. We ain't got to worry about it no more. But anytime there's an insurrection, we got to snuff it out. You see, the Temple of Mercy Association was created to be a resistance movement, whether you know it or not. That's what it was. And an activist movement. In other words, they got for it. a black separatist movement. See, they make these words sound so bad. See, but what's wrong with being a black nationalist? What's wrong with wanting something of your own? What's wrong with being tired of begging for everything? What's wrong with saying we want to be on equal footing with the other races on this planet, being able to, what you call it, in the stock market, trade and deal with commerce and what do they call that when you buy stuff from other countries and bringing it over here? Import, export. Thank you, because I ain't the economist, but I know what it's supposed to be. Now, where's the black man in all of that? Where's the black woman in all of that? And every time one of us lift up our head to be out from under the clutches of this white man and his world system, where they all, whether we're still on the stock market or not, treat us as if we are. And that's a commodity. One way or another, they treat us like they treat the proverbial pig. Every part of us is worth something. Am I lying or telling the truth? Boy, boy, boy. Down to our melanin, down to our fingers costing, down to our toes cost, our eyes, our kidneys, our heart, our lung, our skin. Do they miss anything? Wake up, black man, black woman. I know what's keeping you asleep. What's keeping you asleep is you just believe the only golden opportunity that you can have is if you are sitting in the lap of your oppressor. And that's your problem. That's your problem. We talk about sitting at the table, or else we would be on the menu. And you didn't hear about the man that sat at the table and saw he was still on the menu. They don't care how far they let you in their world. The only thing that happens to you, the further you get in their world, you learn what they think about you. That's what happens. And now you got to walk around muzzled, because if you tell it, they're going to kill you, or they're going to say you're crazy. Can't do like Kanye, because some of you all, as you get income, you spend it so fast that you always in debt. So you become a millionaire, but you be $1 million in debt, so you still broke. So when you get up to 11 billion, and you got $11 billion worth of bills, you can't afford to do what Kanye did and fall down to 800 million and still feel okay, because you'll still have $1 billion in debt that you got to pay. You might not see nothing happen like that, what Kanye did, for years to come. And it took that kind of individual and his outlook on money to be able to do what he did. He didn't do it to lose money, brothers and sisters. That was not the reason he did it. He knew he was going to lose money, but that's not why he did it. First thing he did, and he understood, was it's going to be a sacrifice. And that's what most of us don't want, is to make that sacrifice. Anything you decide to sacrifice for the good, you should be able to come together with those of like mind and figure out a way, working together, how we can help supplement your income so you can at least have food, clothing, and shelter. I didn't say brand name, but food, clothing, and shelter. Who said we can't come together, brothers and sisters? And if someone is tied to this world when it comes to their income, they got all these abandoned properties and buying up lots. Why couldn't we come together and say, look, don't worry about that. You need to be out here on the battlefield with us. We're going to come together and buy that house, fix it up. You can stay there. Why? Because you're a member of the movement. What movement, brothers and sisters? The resistance movement. Because you resisted, you with us. We got to take care of you. You resisted, you with us. Bring all your goods in that you got to help keep us up and moving and running, to help keep us healthy, to help keep us on the battlefield. Brothers and sisters, I know I sound kind of crazy, but can't you see we at war? Can't you see that black people have been given guns, but yet at the same time taking away opportunities that would pull them up out of their impoverished condition? The opportunity is taken away. But you can have the guns. That's okay. We'll give them to you. We'll give you the bullets. So look at our community. Just look at it. Look. Don't one of them little bullets look like a bomb? Look at them. One of them little bullets, another one look like a missile that you launch. All you looking at is miniature missiles being launched every day, every moment, every hour. We are at war. When they pull that trigger and the firing pin hit it, it's just like back in the medieval days when they lit this thing and pulled the trigger and shot the cannonball over there and hit the castle. Am I right? All we're looking at is a smaller version of warfare. Missiles being fired every day and every night. People getting blasted. We're at war. I don't know how you want to see it, but we are at war. And when people like Kanye do what he do, I know that God approves of it, because in Matthew 5, verse 14, he says, ye, there it is, are the light of the world. Yea, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it gives light to all that are in the house. So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So now we look at those two Judases, the one with Marcus Garvey, not Marcus Garvey, but Nat Turner, the one with David Walker. You didn't see too many hypocrites and Judases with what's her name? The lady, Harriet Tubman. Yeah, you didn't hear about him. Wasn't no media. Wasn't no newspaper when she shot him in the head, when she left him dead on the road. She just had one rule. And that kept out all hypocrites and Judases. Maybe we need to adopt it. I'm just saying. She had one rule. And that rule was, if you're tired and you can't keep up and you can't make it to the next spot, we ain't gonna leave you. And we ain't gonna leave you with a couple of sticks of chewable meat, jerkies. We're not gonna leave you with some of them and dig a hole and hide you. We gonna kill you. You either get up and go or die where you are. And that meant men, women, and children. Good one, ain't it? Couldn't tell nothing. But anyway, I know I ain't gonna finish this, y'all, but I'm trying to. What I want to do is talk about the hypocrite real quick. But I want to do it from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's understanding. And I'm gonna go way back to 1969. 1969. This is before Minister Louis Farrakhan came into the nation. And it says here, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. This is a Quran scripture. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, when the hypocrites come to thee, they say, we bear witness that thou art indeed Allah's messenger. And Allah knows thou art indeed his messenger. And Allah then bears witness that the hypocrites are surely liars. The sayings of the hypocrites, that they are true believers in the messenger of Allah by calling him the messenger, and then claiming that they believe that most surely he is this messenger, so that the messenger will take them for true believers. They say that so that you could take them for true believers. So in other words, they'll say whatever they need to say to get in and get close. Oh yeah, you the messenger. Oh yeah, you the man of God. Oh yeah, I believe. Just to get in. Do you know there were people walking with Malcolm that were undercover FBI agents? And you can point them out if you watch some of the video, some of the film. It was the first person to his side when he was shot was an FBI agent administering mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Now, how you gonna do that with 30 bullet holes in your chest? Where's the air going? I wonder. On the streets, they say they aired you out now. So how you gonna put some more in there? Ain't that what they say on the street? You got to air it out. Blah, blah, blah. No, he was hastening his death. That's what he was doing. He was doing his job. And that was his job. So then he says, but God knows that they are most surely liars. If a person lies a lot, that increases their potential to be a hypocrite. They only want to use a false oath, don't mean nothing they say, as shelter for the apostle to accept them as true believers while they are not. A hypocrite is not liked by anyone, regardless of what kind of hypocrite he may be. Even if he don't have a religion, if he into politics, any person who declares he is something that he is not is a hypocrite of that thing. Whatever it is. If you're not that, you're a hypocrite. If you're not fitting the title of what you say you are, but yet you are opposite of that, you're a hypocrite. So in religion, a hypocrite is one who claims a belief in a religion and the teaching of that religion. He is not really a believer in the religion. In the 3rd verse of the same chapter of the Holy Quran, it teaches that the hypocrites believed, then disbelieved. And after disbelieving, their hearts are sealed so that they understand not. This means that Allah God withdraws his guidance from the hypocrites after they disbelieve. This is the meaning of their hearts being sealed. God does not guide them on the right path anymore. So the Holy Quran teaches, but he, God, allows them to go into the path of hell after they claim that they accepted the path of heaven and then they turned away from it. Basically, it's saying a person is in a better position to have not ever believed than the one who did say he believed with his mouth and truly didn't believe. Isn't that bad to be in that position? So y'all beginning to catch it now, Judacrit. You heard of Judas, right? Because for one, how can that Judas become Judas unless he got to the point that his faith was diminished and he didn't believe on the same degree or level that he believed on? Because anytime you're working for the cause of a people, you're sacrificing. See, and that means, like when Jesus said to the rich man, if you believe and want to follow me, go home and sell everything you got and then follow me. Jesus wasn't crazy when he said it. That was a test. See, it's in the same sense of when you call yourself one of the believers and part of the movement, and we say you got to be willing to sacrifice. That means you don't go and take your stuff and sell it. That means you place in your heart and in your mind that you're saying that what I'm involved in is greater and bigger than my personal situation. That what I'm involved in deals with a future, not a present. Now, what future are we looking at when we get into these positions as nationalists or whatever we want to call ourselves? The first thing we're supposed to see is the future that we want to chart out for our children. That's the first one. Do you want our children, which is too late for me because mine grown now, but do we want our children to suffer the same things we suffer? Do you want our children to be in the same position? So if we're saying, I believe the children are our future, teach them well and let them lead the way. Well, what are they going to do? But the same thing you did, and then you did, and you did, all down. What? And if they don't like what you're doing, you're going to call them rebellious. Hypocritical. You could be a hypocrite right after you receive this message. Whoever you are listening, you can become a hypocrite because you know it to be true, but yet and still you don't want to act on it. Hypocrite. Can't be trusted. If you're not willing to give up your life, and when I say life, I mean it in two ways. When Jesus gave up his life, what he gave up was the opportunity to be married, to have children, to have a nice house, to have a nice car, to have all of that. He hadn't gotten it, but he gave up that thought. And so in the same sense, in reverse, if you come in and you understand that you got that, you don't have to give it up physically, but you give it up mentally. You get what I'm saying? Y'all get that, right? That don't mean sell your house tomorrow and say, Brother Minister, I put it up for sale. I didn't tell you to do that. I'm just being straight. I ain't never said that. Mentally, you got to be saying to yourself, if you come at me, you can't use my house to get me. You can't use my car. You can't use my job. It's not going to work. And they got to be able to see that in your eyes when they look at you. Oh, no, it got to be so cold that they'll say, well, if we took his house, that's not going to even faze him. They have to figure out what other way to get to you. Because the house, they say, no, that ain't going to work either. That car, he don't care about that car. I can see it in his eyes. When I said it, he didn't even blink. Like, yeah, right. Knowing deep down inside you, like, don't take my car, please. Don't take the car. But he can't see it because you got it covered, right? So you protecting what you got, but you said to him, I give my life and everything to stand on what I believe so that I can move our situation up a notch to say now that we do have a future and our children can take our victories and move forward on those victories. And then we will move a step further in our freedom. But what victories do we really have? Come on, y'all. Be honest with yourself. I know you're going to say something stupid. And now you're going to, say, how you going to call what I'm going to say stupid?
The have-been show.
Huh?
I said our victories are the have-been show. What we have.
Yeah, that's the victory. And then it's also because you got somebody in office. We have black mayors, we have black senators, we have black aldermen, we have black state representatives, we have black this and black that, and black. That's advancement, right? I got a brother can come up here and show you how they block every black businessman. It's almost like a game of chess. How they block your advancement while the public are being led to believe you are advancing. Meanwhile, they behind you, unraveling every damn thing you just built. He can get up here and show you that. He can get up here and tell you their names. You think the Arabs are sitting there watching you get your store, your grocery store? And you think he go home and go to sleep? Now he go home and call a meeting. And they come to the house. And they talk about your store across the street. What can we do to offset that? You think the Arabs don't know that the Hispanics are moving into these neighborhoods? You think the Arabs don't know that eventually they're going to have to get up out of there because the Hispanics don't buy from nobody but themselves? They know they got to go. And right now, most of the Arabs in our community, my community, are so smart that they want to prolong their time in the neighborhood just a little bit longer. So they say, what we going to do? So they start hiring a Hispanic now in the liquor store. Get them some extra time to be in the community, you see? Because I employed one of yours. Why didn't they think that way when we was begging them to employ us? They didn't care because they understand that we were consumers. And they know we don't trust each other. And so they build off of that. They know we can't make them hire nobody if they don't want to. We can talk about it, and then they know we're going to go back to sleep. All you got to do is when you come into the Black community, if you don't have what they want, write it down and you'll have it next week. And if you keep doing that over a period of time, you'll have everything that everybody in the community want and need. What have you just done? You have put a seal of protection around your business. I know y'all don't even see that. That's how smart they were. You say, how you know that, Brother Minister? See, y'all think I be talking from just reading articles, newspaper articles. Years ago on 77 in Halsted, when this store opened in the